Ready? Okay, welcome everyone. This is the Calaveras County Water District's regular meeting for November 9th, 1 o'clock, give or take. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, can we have the roll call, please?
Okay, Director Underhill. Director Underhill, you're on mute.
Oh, okay. But I'm here. I'm unmuted.
Director Ratterman.
Here.
Director Thomas.
I'm here.
President Cicada.
And I'm here as well. All right, we are moving on to public comment. At this time, members of the public may address the board on any non-agendized item. The public is encouraged to work through staff to place items on the agenda for board consideration. No action can be taken on matters not listed on the agenda. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per person. Do we have any public comment here in the boardroom? Come on up. And this is items not on the agenda, correct? Awesome.
I thought it was put on the agenda. I've spoken to Russ and to Mike. I've spoken to my associate, Ms. Lise Jensen, Copperopolis, and I'm addressing 2 properties that you have in Copper. One is at our recreational and boat launch. It's a abandoned building, more or less. And also there is one on the corner of Kiva and Kiva Court. I have taken pictures because I always think that if you really see what I see every day, it makes them more
Can you
important.
bring those closer so we can see?
First 2 pages are our actual center.
Thank you.
And it's got a swim area, the boats are launched there. There's a pretty picnic area. We just had all the asphalt redone for $100,000. They spent a lot of money through our association on that. The first building that you see when you come in is this one. I have family and friends that come to visit, and I have this beautiful recreation area, but I have a building that is dilapidated. It's got dry rot. It's got a staircase that is not even usable, as well as the handles on it are unstable. The back of this building has 2 windows. They've been broken out. Because as we know, when you leave buildings alone and nobody's watching them, you end up with young kids destroying things because they have nothing better to do. This can't have been maintenance in 10, 20 years. I don't know. I've only been there 2 years, but it is a disgrace. It's an eyesore, and I think it's a safety issue. The second property that I have, I have 6 pictures on that property because it is at our launch.
Can I ask you, I'm looking at this picture right here with the asphalt. Is that the asphalt the association put in?
Yes, yes. I don't know if it shows, and you can see it also in this one. This is all new. And then there's a property which is 4797 on the corner of Kiva Court and Kiva Drive. And it has been abandoned. None of them have lights in any kind of working order. This one I have personally cleaned up because I live on Kiva Court at the very end of the street. And every time I go to get my mail, this is what I have to pass.
Gotcha.
So
let's, you're coming up on your 3 minutes, I think.
Okay.
Michael, have you seen these pictures, or Damon? Okay, so,
it's in the works supposedly for the last year.
okay,
What I'm
so
interested in is,
at the next meeting, let's agendize this and you let us know what the game plan is and how far along it's going to be until it gets replaced. Have you seen these? You guys see it?
yeah.
Okay, so can we do that? Put that on the agenda and have a game plan so we can know when it could be updated? Thank you.
Thank you. And thank
you.
you for hearing me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right, any other public comment here in the boardroom? Anybody online? Okay, public comments is done. Let's move on to the consent agenda. The following items are expected to be routine, non-controversial. Items will be acted upon by the board at one time without discussion. Any board member may request that any item be removed for later discussion. Do we have a motion or?
I'd like to request that 3C, the claim summary,
All
be
right,
removed.
all right. So can I get a motion to accept the
I'll make a
others
mo-
and pull
I'll make the
3C?
motion for 3A, 3B, 3D, and 3E.
Thank you,
Second,
Scott.
I'll
All right,
second
we-
it.
Thank you, Bertha and Scott. So we have a first and a second for items 3A, B, D, and C. Can we get a roll call vote on that, Rebecca?
That would be 3A,
A,
3D,
B,
and 3E, correct?
A, B, D, E.
oh, and E, yeah.
Okay.
We're pulling 3C.
Okay, Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Takeda.
Yes. All right, take it away, Russ.
Okay, let me scroll in my handy dandy new computer. Ordinarily, I would have had all these questions answered ahead of time, but I ran out of time and didn't have time to make the calls. But see, the first thing that came to my attention is on page 1 of the claim summary, the $171,770 to Aqua JPIA listed as a premium or deposit premium. 7/1/22 to 6/30/23. Can I get an explanation about whether that's the entire premium for the year or?
Yeah, I believe that is the annual, those are done in big chunks. So I can confirm with finance, but I think that is the projected amount for the year.
Okay,
Does that include workman's comp or is that just?
No.
I'll have to follow up with you on that.
I don't know why I'm hearing myself echo. Director Ratterman, can you shed some light on what we have covered with Aqua JPIA?
They do cover workers' comp. I haven't looked at whether that includes all of workers' comp and all of our property schedule or not. I'd have to go back and confirm what is all included in that.
Okay, but it would be liability, casualty losses and some portion of workers.
And workers' comp.
Okay. All right.
And property.
And property, yeah, casualty. Okay, going to page 4. There are 22 computers and a value of 36,286. Were these computers that we have contained in that 22?
I believe so. Those were, I want to say $400 each.
Okay.
And the other 36,000?
So I can follow up with you on that. I can double check with IT and we have a replacement schedule for our computers now. So that was all budgeted for. And there's Jessica.
There's
Oh,
Jessica.
there he is. Good.
So all of those computers, that whole budget is allotted for staff computers, and we did do some adjustments to put your computers in there as well.
Okay, thank you for that.
Can I
Mhm.
follow up on that a little bit?
Sure.
You know, over the last 4 years, when I see computer purchases, I always say something. And when I see $36,000, 22 computers, how often are we doing these?
We are replacing computers every 5 years. And I believe the full budget for computers that was approved for this fiscal year is around 80,000. We have a lot of extremely old computers, especially out in the field, that need to be replaced.
I've been hearing that so much. It's like we see your purchases all the time. And especially with Tyler and everything, we had to go buy a bunch of computers because of the Windows component was outdated or something. And I don't think it's been 5 years.
So all I can say is moving forward, has done a really good job he did a full assessment of all computers throughout the whole district in the office and at every field site. And now this first year is the big push for new computers because there's so many that are outdated. And then there's a phase over the next 5 years to replace all of the computers. And then once we get through that, then there'll be a nice 5-year phase.
With the 80,000 that you said is budgeted, what all do we get out of that 80,000?
The number of computers.
Or what are we getting for it? You know, is it just $80,000 for computers?
Computers, monitors, the workstation.
What do you guys budget for, let's say at your desk?
Mhm.
What's a budget for somebody to have a computer system?
So we can bring back the detailed budget of what the 80,000 included, but that was
Yeah.
all detailed in the budget.
And just because you update, the processor, you need new monitors every time as well? I would think so. And I wouldn't mind, you could share this. When we go over the budget and I want to see line detail, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. I don't want to come all sitting here, we did 80,000.
No, it's in
List
there.
of-
But
Yeah.
we can bring it back to.
I believe it is itemized in that fiscal year budget.
It is.
Well, you can just email it to me. I don't think we need to make an agenda, but
Mhm.
and I wouldn't mind seeing Brandon's for,
Absolutely.
computers and really what is that budget? I mean,
Yep, we have it identified down to every single workstation.
That was all
with every
detailed.
and
facility.
this is all like 68 employees.
60 employees plus desktops at field sites. Everyone has their own computer, but then there are desktops that are needed at field sites for data management and things like that. So
We're at 74 now, but
Mhm.
yeah, it's for all district wide. And we have the detail in the budget. We can get into more detailed discussion.
Maybe
in
like in
finance committee.
finance committee or something, if you wanted to, but just send it to me the email and let me take a look. Refresh my memory and
Happy to.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
Thanks, go ahead, Russ.
Okay, also on page 4, the next item is the rental of a scissor lift. Looks like it must be 1 month's rental for $1,900. It's listed for the courtyard. The only place you could use a scissor lift in the courtyard would be inside the building. I'm just wondering, you've heard me say before that I think it's prudent that if you're going to spend 10% or more of the value of a piece of equipment just to rent it for a month, that you ought to consider buying it. So if we truly need a scissor lift in that building, I would think that you could find a dandy one, electric one for $3,000-4,000. So I'm just,
We can definitely take a look. The electrical improvements that the scissor lift was used for are complete. So we always kind of go back to that question of, and it's how often are we going to use it moving forward? Because we do have other means of getting into high places, but it's definitely something to consider.
yeah, Cindy would let you use her bucket truck.
Yeah, if only it could fit.
Yeah,
If
that
only we could
$136,000 one, that one.
boom it up in there. Yeah, exactly.
I know they're holding the conduit up there and
Yeah, right.
it's beautiful looking work, but just remember, you heard it here first.
Got it.
We won't,
Gotcha. Thank
okay.
you.
Okay, this is kind of falls in the same category. You've got a trailer listed for the utility crew from Holt of California for $2,783. What is that all about? Did they buy it or?
That's a purchase. Yeah,
Wow.
that's a purchase for the asphalt roller that
Ah,
was
okay.
purchased. And so this is kind of to the discussion of or the consideration of why don't CCWD's crews do more in-house asphalt paving? And the underground crew is actually taking that charge and they are completing some asphalt paving and it's really good work and we're really appreciative of what they do. So they needed a trailer for a roller and our purchasing agent, Mike, was able to find a cost-effective trailer for them.
And it's
Okay,
going to
so-
save us quite a bit in the long term on paving.
Yeah,
Yeah, well, that's the next item is $8,800 for patch paving. So that's
right.
appropriate. Okay.
Yes.
This may be a Jessica answer. The Surface Pro Service Pro capital replacements, that's 13,000. So if we go to 36 plus the 13,000 is a large portion of, or the lion's share sort of that 80,000.
Correct. We did a large ordering upfront so that we can get these computers out.
Okay, so Main Street Technologies is a better source for computers than the other one.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, Kevin isn't here, but this kind of jumped off the page. We have DIs, which means drainage inlets for the district courtyard, $12,452. Why are we buying DIs when we have a general contractor that had a contract to build the building?
That's a good question. He's not here. I would surmise that we can get him more quickly from our contacts through our purchasing agent, but I can't confirm that. I can ask him that question.
We can follow up on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Russ, this is Kevin. I'm here
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Kevin.
online. Yeah, we pre-purchased the RCP pipe and also the drainage inlets because they were a long lead time item. And we purchased them before the and had them made before the contractor was even awarded.
Okay, well, I remember looking carefully at their proposal for the outside paving and stuff, and they were going to use a different kind of pipe. They included a value for that pipe, and I'm assuming that they had DIs. But I guess my question is, did we get any kind of a refund if we supplied the stuff?
It wasn't included in their contract. We'd already purchased it. The 42-inch RCP that was purchased along with those drainage inlets is like a 6-month lead time to get it here.
Okay, so if I heard you correctly, we did not see those elements listed in Plummerville's proposal.
That's correct. The only pipe they were furnishing was the 18-inch plastic pipe.
Okay. All right.
Thanks, Kevin.
You may need to answer this question too, Kevin. The $51,400 for PG&E, this is on page 7 to relocate electric relocate and rearrangements. Is that what we paid PG&E for the hookup?
I think that's copper,
Lakeshore.
not mistaken, so that might be a Charles question.
Oh, Lakeshore. Oh, I'm
Or
sorry.
We could follow up with you on that one.
You're right. It's on Lakeshore. We apparently paid PG&E for work at 5099 Lakeshore, 51,474.
Correct, yeah, that's for the Copper Cove lift station project. So that is PG&E's fees to, there's a little bit of design charge in that, and then the rest of it's just for their scope of work to do construction of the, set a pole, put transformers and overhead transformers in, pull the electrical conductors through up to, so that it's kind of where Mazingo's contract ends and PG&E's starts.
So that would be an overhead transformer as opposed to on the ground.
I believe that one is overhead, yes.
Okay. All right.
Groundwater system.
Yeah,
Groundwater system.
this, Michael, you probably will have the answer to this about on page 7, we have a check to San Joaquin County Public Works for 33,556. Are we paying full boat for that and we'll get reimbursed?
Yeah, I'd have to double check. That sounds like more than what our share of the dues are. So I think that's,
As I recall, it should have been about 18,000.
yeah, so I think then we will turn around and get reimbursed.
Can you somehow
Follow up on
confirm that? and
Will
follow up?
do.
Yeah, hey, Michael, this is Brad. I'm on the call here. Good afternoon, directors. Yeah, that's
See how I did that?
absolutely correct. Yeah, we send that out to them and then they'll reimburse us for, they being both Stanislaus and Calaveras County will reimburse us for their share. So our total net at the end ends up being around that 18,000 mark. You're correct, Director Thomas.
Okay.
How come we have it set up that way? Why wouldn't they each pay their own?
We're the fiscal agent for the GSA, and
Thank
so
you.
it kind of all goes we're the point of contact.
Okay.
Okay, Damon, we paid Sutton Enterprises $5,800 for excavator rental for Forest Meadows. Tell me about that. Is that?
Yeah, so this is associated with our UV system replacement. So the UV system, which disinfects the treated wastewater effluent at Forest Meadows, was installed, I want to say in 1991. And so it's well past its prime, so it's ready to be replaced. And we ordered a unit, and the unit that we ordered is about 10 feet longer than the existing. And the existing unit has a stainless steel trough, so these UV bulbs sit in a trough and the water flows over them, and the water's then disinfected. Well, the new unit requires a concrete trough, and that has to be poured in place. And so our construction crew rented this excavator to do site cleanup. So they basically denuded the site, removed a bunch of trees, and then cut. There's a big cut that has to take place, and they completed most of it until we found our effluent line located right in a portion of where this new trough has to live. And so they've paused the work and installed all SWIP BMP. So they put down all the cocoa matting. And then what we're going to do, we were actually, Charles and I were up there on Friday. We're going to put this out to local contractors. We have a couple that have worked with us in the past that have done really good work associated with pouring concrete, UV troughs, some that have poured the concrete associated with the surge tank at the Hunter's water treatment plant. And so then they can complete the work. So the rental was for about, I want to say it was 2 weeks of site work, which included grading and then grubbing and brushing of the site.
Okay, so this was a larger excavator than we own.
Correct. Yeah, this is a CIP project also. So
Okay.
it started last year. We ordered the unit and we had to pay a portion of the cost for the actual UV unit. It's coming from Germany. We ordered it, I want to say in July of 2021, and it will be here December. And so we will store it in our warehouse. And then our plan is at the end of winter, the beginning of spring to prep for the install.
So these UV units they have ultraviolet bulbs. Did we order replacement bulbs?
So we budget every year for all the replacement bulbs. And so with this unit, it comes with a whole set of brand new bulbs, but kind of understanding the way the material supply issues are the way they are these times, we did budget to replace bulbs for the existing unit.
Okay. All right. Don't go away.
Got
This is my last question. On the last page, there's United Rentals for a rammer rental, which is, I'm assuming that's for compacting a ditch or something, and it's $268. However, we had to pay for repairing that rammer $592. So I'm wondering why we aren't checking the box where we get charged for the insurance.
Great question. I will follow up on that one as well.
Okay, that concludes my questions. So unless you have any,
These new?
They look new. yeah.
you'll see those on
Yeah.
on next month's.
So-
Yeah, on the $36,000 too.
The on-off buttons actually work on these ones.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, with that, I'd be pleased to make a motion to
Oh,
approve.
well, no. I'd like to make a comment, please.
Go ahead,
Oh.
Martha.
All right.
Okay. I just wanted to say that I was in agreement in a lot of the questions that you had, Russ, because I was questioning the same thing. And the only other one that I had was the UMO, and I asked Michael about that. And
Yeah. So we talked about several of those same items. The UMO one, I sent you a text message this morning, but I was going to call you to follow up on it too, but that's our UMRA dues.
Where's that one under? Who's it paid to?
page number 9,
Oh,
Third.
Yes,
Third
this
from the
upper
bottom.
column,
22,000.
Yeah, so those are dues. Director
UMRA,
Underhill.
okay, well, UMRA's there, but you know, the acronym, or not the acronym, is it an acronym? UMO, I didn't quite understand. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, that's why I didn't have the answer off the top of my head when we talked either. I had to follow up on that as well.
All right.
So,
Uh-huh.
yeah,
Scott,
but
do you,
that's what that is.
Scott, do you have any questions? Comments? I'm pretty sure no then.
No, I
All
don't.
right.
Sorry.
No worries. Okay, go ahead with your motion, Russ.
Okay, I would like to move for approval on item 3C.
We get a second?
Second,
All right, we have first and a second. Rebecca, would you like to take the roll, please?
Director Underhill,
yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes,
President Cicada.
Yes. All right, so item number 4, we're going to open for a public hearing. Is that correct, Michael?
Yes.
And then we do public comment before that, after our discussion.
After the discussion, yeah.
Okay. All right. Item 4A, public hearing, discussion action regarding amendment of the commercial account review policy. Jessica.
Okay, so after numerous meetings with the board, our engineering committee, staff, and working with the public, we finally are at the point where we have a final draft of the commercial account review policy. So just to recap, we wanted to develop a policy that contains the most appropriate methods to determine the actual costs related to water and wastewater services for any specific business. And within this commercial account review policy, there are some things within water and wastewater. So within water, we discuss requests for water consumption review, consolidation of commercial water meters and accounts, and master meters. And for wastewater, we discuss bi-monthly base rate and capacity fee review, consolidation of commercial wastewater accounts. So staff have finalized this policy and it's ready for board approval. If the board adopts this ordinance, there's a 60-day timeframe prior to the new commercial account going into effect. So if adopted today, that date would be January 8th of 2023. And just as a recap, we are requesting that this new ordinance replaces the previous ordinance 9806, which is also attached in the packet.
Comments?
I'll wait for other comments, but since this was kind of based on problems in my district, I'd like to make the motion, but
I'll
Okay,
second that.
I will,
Wait till.
yeah, let's,
Public comment
yeah,
first.
right.
okay. So, Scott, do you have any comments on what's
No, we
presented?
discussed this numerous times and the staff has followed up with all of our previous comments and put this together. I have nothing further on this.
Okay, Bertha, do you have any comments?
Well, I just have one question. I know staff has been working on it. Have we gone further down into our workforce to see if they had any suggestions as far as revising this policy or readopting it? I mean, you got that low in the organization?
I guess who do you mean by workforce?
Well,
Yeah,
you
so
know,
we definitely circulated this across multiple departments and incorporated a lot of feedback from a lot of different employees that had the opportunity to comment on it.
Yeah, I would say probably a solid core of 6 of us, but then we've had larger discussions with multiple departments to where the entire departments can review, and that would be customer service, finance, and engineering and ops as well. So we've definitely had a lot of discussion lots of staff bringing in historical knowledge and feedback, and trying to really figure out, the what ifs down the road to make sure that what we have in this policy can stand on its own. Because the current policy right now it just provides some difficulties because it's not super clear.
Jessica, you said you were working with the public, the public that kind of started this, did they get to look this over at any point and comment with you prior to that?
So we definitely had discussions with multiple businesses within the community, and that's really where we took those examples to try to create this policy. And then we also looked at other examples that we knew of as well. And then, this one specifically for this meeting, I sent an email out to everyone to let them know that we will be having a public hearing, even though we are required to push it on the newspaper. I wanted to let them know that was happening.
So you felt like you addressed and met their needs?
Yes, and I would say, especially with a couple of accounts going through this process, we've been able to work with them while developing this policy. So, making sure that what we're doing with them is actually working with what we have here.
Nice.
So,
okay. So, board members, we're done. Let's open it for public comment. Anybody here in the boardroom have public comment? Anybody online, Rebecca? We have Steve online, Dean on the public comment. Go ahead, Dean.
Thanks. I'm really sorry. I know, Jessica, you had sent me an email, but I'm a little bit confused here. I don't think that we've actually seen what the final policy that is being recommended is, the final recommendations that are being made.
So the final recommendations were included within the board agenda packet. And I shared that link with everyone on that email.
Dean, do you have the agenda packet open?
Yeah, I'm reviewing it now, but just in fairness, we received this a couple days ago. Well, actually, I got it yesterday, so I haven't viewed it yet.
Okay, so do you feel that you understand now what we're bringing forward here?
I mean, I'm actually reviewing it as we speak. It's the first I've seen it.
All right, well, while he's reviewing it, do we have any other public comments? Do I need to do anything more? Do we just?
Matt, Dean, I'm asking a question of our legal counsel. We've heard that this won't be actually put into place for 60 days in January. It's January the 8th, as I recall. So if Dean has objections to what we're doing here, wouldn't he have an opportunity to appeal it or something? So
No,
No?
if you pass it, the reason, we have to wait 60 days for an ordinance to go into effect. That's just the way the law is written. So, I mean, he could lodge a comment with the district or show up in public comment, but you'd have to reopen this item if you wanted to change it.
We'd have to re-adopt it
Yeah.
if we make changes after it's adopted. So we'd have to publicly notice it again and do another separate hearing, re-adopt it.
You've put us in a little bit of a dilemma here, Dean. We've been trying to work on this for months and months and months, and apparently you've had this document in your hands for some time. What would you like to see us do?
That's not actually accurate. I've had this document in my hands. It was emailed, the link was emailed to me yesterday at 1:19. Sorry, actually, that's not the email. It was emailed to me yesterday at 10:56 a.m. This is the first time I've seen this document. And so, we've been working with you guys for a year. I think I appreciate CCWD has really taken, I appreciate the effort that's been put into this. I know that Jessica and Michael and Damon have been working really hard along with the people there. But you guys are asking me to comment on this, and I can't stop you from deciding what you want to do here. But I mean, I haven't had an opportunity to review it. I haven't been given a reasonable amount of time to view this document, which is going to potentially have a significant impact on our account. And again, we raised this issue because I think we are the largest single commercial account in the district, and we're probably impacted disproportionately. This may be a very reasonable solution. It may make a ton of sense. I can't comment on it without having an opportunity to really review it.
So, and
Well,
I
how
think
about
this is
we-
pretty consistent with what we've presented over the last couple of months. We've had multiple public discussions about this in our board meetings. There's some minor changes and some reformatting, but I don't know if there were any major substantive changes from when we last presented this to the board. So did you have any concerns about where we were at that point, Dean?
Yeah, I had some concerns about, and I don't know if this addresses it or not, but you know, and I don't want to dominate the agenda because we're one account, but again, I think we're disproportionately impacted by it. I think our concern had to do with the fact that there were a number of concerns that we had, but the biggest concern we had was what the last discussion we had about this. You guys had indicated that there'd be an ability to consolidate accounts, but there may not be the ability to reconnect service when they're shut off. And I can talk about specific examples here. For example, we have a tenant who's interested in occupying 4 suites at our shopping center, and they would be responsible for 4 separate water bills, which are prohibitively expensive for any tenant, and they're prohibitively expensive for us, frankly. And so we had talked about them having the ability to, you know, consolidate that account under one account, and effectively, you know, if they had 1 bathroom and 4 suites, they'd be able to have 1 account. But there was ambiguity as to whether or not down the road, if that tenant were to ever vacate, we'd have the ability to reactivate accounts for the 3 separate suites that were shut off. And so I don't know if that's addressed in here.
But Jessica, looking at what we've done, so if we put this in play today and he consolidated 4, and then 5 years from now, they want to get him back, how would this policy react to that? What kind of a financial impact would happen to this customer?
So, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Jessica, but the way this works is that the consolidation is permitted, and there's a process for consolidating meters under this. But because once the other accounts are terminated, the customer is no longer paying rates to maintain the accounts that were terminated. So there's no longer an ongoing maintenance of the capacity in the system that was assigned to those accounts. So that capacity is forfeited. The customer could reestablish additional accounts in the future, but it would be starting a new service at that point. If, you know, assuming capacity is available in the system, it would be starting a new account with no, you know, credit for previous capacity.
So they would have to pay those new connection fees.
Right.
You know, and in regards to that,
Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong.
What was that, Dean?
So in regards to this, we've just been trying to understand everything more organically here. And I'd asked for a copy of the original documents pertaining to this property and the contracts that were entered into to establish the water rights. And I think that CCWD has been unable to locate those. I've been unable to locate those. But I hate to object to something that you guys have been working on, but I think that I continue to. It makes, for our property, it makes it very difficult. The policy is being suggested, that my understanding of it is impractical to apply to the shopping center. You know, we're trying to be able to have the flexibility to bring tenants in and out of the center, and you know, conditions change. Tenants go in and out of business. I think you guys all know that obviously we've got a number of vacancies here. We're trying to control costs for ourselves and costs for our tenants. But I don't want us to be forced, as this policy stands now, I think that it is of little utility to the shopping center. And it doesn't resolve the problems for the tenants. We could not agree to allow a tenant to consolidate under one account if it precludes us from, or if it creates so much uncertainty on us being able to release those spaces in the future.
But couldn't Dean decide to just go with a master meter, and then now he's all in control of that? So we're trying to accommodate everybody, but still keep in mind we have to do what's right for CCWD as well. So Dean, couldn't you do the master meters instead of consolidating? And that way now you're in full control of the situation in your shopping center.
Yeah, I have to really better understand it, but the one thing that you guys are asking to do there as well is you're asking to shift the burden of maintenance from everything at the master meter, from the point of the master meter, which is where the water comes in, to all the infrastructure that runs under our parking lot, which has historically been the responsibility of CCWD, would become, we'd be responsible for maintaining any problems. And it shifts a fairly large burden onto us as a shopping center. So,
but in response to that, Dean, though, if you stop paying any fees to help us maintain it, you're willing to take that burden. You know what I mean? You're kind of willing to take that risk of maintaining that to help you save money. Because at the same time, I don't think that CCWD could really say, okay, well, we'll still maintain everything, but you don't have to pay it. So, how do we come up with that happy medium? I think master meters or consolidating perhaps.
It's a very unique situation in CCWD. The way that this policy is handled is very different from anywhere we own and manage properties. And I think an unfair burden has been placed on ownership of the center to pay for services that we haven't received for years, and now we're being asked ultimately to pay for maintenance, which it just doesn't seem reasonable. I can't stop you from doing whatever you want to do here, but I don't think that this policy will pass on the savings to our tenants that we'd hoped.
So, and I think there's, oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Bertha.
And I think that we've been working on this for a year now. And I don't know if I missed the last meeting, but it seems like now a lot of work has been put into this on the CCWD side, but it's not really reasonable for me to say yes or no that I'm supportive of this policy without having had a real opportunity to review it. I hate to even suggest this. I'm sure this will not be well received, but I'd ask that maybe this is tabled until we can have further review of it until the next meeting.
Well, it's been at the last 3 meetings, hasn't it?
Well, we haven't really gotten into it in depth, not like we have right now. I wanted to know, Russ, how does this apply to your shopping center?
So what we allow under this policy is essentially what we did at the Cosmic Court Shopping Center. This is how we resolved that issue. We're kind of codifying that process in this policy. And so what we're not doing though, and I think is what Dean is suggesting we should do, is allow commercial customers to turn on and off whenever there's a vacancy and not pay for ongoing service when there's a vacancy, and then be allowed to turn it back on, even though they haven't been paying to maintain that service. And where we have a disagreement is whether they've been provided the service they've been paying for or not. And from CCWD's perspective, they have. The water was available at the meter, and there's a cost to the district to provide that water, make that available at the meter, whether the customer utilizes it or not.
No customers get to do that. Let's hear what Scott has to say real quick. Scott, go ahead.
Thank you, Cindy. Yeah, we've been reviewing this for several months, and I know Dean said it might be a year, and it very well might be that staff, we've had several open hearings and invited public, including Dean, to comment on this and help mold this new policy. And then after all those public meetings and hearing from several people from the public, staff has forged ahead and put together a policy. We as elected officials have the responsibility. We are, to vote on this, and I think we've given everybody the opportunity to comment on it. We can't make, and I think it's going to be very, very difficult to make every potential customer happy on every policy, but we have changed our policy dramatically and turning it and having the ability, giving every customer the ability to turn their, to quit paying because they lost a customer, lost a tenant, and to not be paying between tenants. That's something that no one is afforded. And I don't think that's afforded by other utilities in other areas either. It just doesn't seem like it would be practical. I think we got a motion and a second on this. We're hearing public comment. Allow public comment to go further, and let's vote on this matter. We've done our research, put together the policy already.
Just to be clear on a couple of points here, you guys are going to vote on this. It's probably going to be approved. I've objected to the way this has been structured from the beginning. You guys have put together what makes sense in your opinion. I disagree. In regard, you mentioned that other public utilities, you can't shut off and turn on and off at will, and that's absolutely not true. If we lose tenants, we can, Ebbets Pass Gas, we can turn that on and off. We can turn on electricity, gas. This is the only public utility that we can't alter service for. I mean, we're paying.
I'm sure you're talking about propane tank and not natural gas, because that wouldn't be the case if you had a pipeline going to your house. Providing
in every other jurisdiction that we operate, in just about every other jurisdiction, we have the ability to turn on and off.
But that'd be the similar. A propane tank is more like a gas tank on your car, and it's not really a utility. You're just purchasing. You might have a contract with them, but that's not the utility that I'm talking about. Sewer, water, electrical.
It's very clear what you guys are going to do. Go ahead and do it. And I've asked for paperwork and documentation on our agreement. We've been told that I just think that what you're doing actually it probably contradicts the original agreement that was put in place when the shopping center was built and developed, and we received the capacity approvals that were received, but we've had no way to rectify that because we haven't been provided with any original documentation.
So that's an issue, Dean. I'll follow up with you on that. I didn't realize there was, we weren't able to locate that agreement. I'm assuming we will be able to find that, and we can sit down and talk through that. Independent of the policy, we can talk through the agreement, and I'm happy to do that.
And if that's worth bringing back to us for some reason, when you look at this agreement.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if there was a facilities agreement. I'm not sure what development process was used at the time, whether there was a facilities agreement in place or if it was just individual commercial customer agreements. We'd have to go back and track that down.
So if we move forward on this today, in the meantime, you're going to look for that document, talk with Dean, and if that warrants any changes for their particular situation, we could look at that as a relief of application or something. If there's something, concrete.
The other issue that we have here is there's just so much uncertainty created. We're not opposed to paying to disconnect and reconnect service, but the opposition that we have is the fact that if we were to stop any service, then there's no guarantee that we'd ever be able to reintroduce it. That's our opposition. We had talked about this before, that can we can we examine the fee structure where we know what the exposure is, where we can operate and manage the property in a manner that best serves the community and our tenants. So, and anyway, I will leave it at this to say I appreciate that you guys are bound by your obligations to all your customers, and I'm asking you to develop a policy that serves just one property. But I think that what has been lost on this is it's the single largest account, and you've collected substantial fees.
Go ahead.
I'd just like to make a comment that what we are preparing to approve here came about as a result of one property plus your property brought it to our attention that we needed to make a change. And we've been trying to make those changes systematically and sensitively. And apparently we, for some reason, you either got out of the loop or whatever. But the way I'm seeing this is if we approve this today, you certainly have an opportunity to come back and start the process over again.
Right.
If just like it started a year ago. But I want to be sensitive to your needs, but I don't want to offend our staff either. They've been working hard on this, and I'm prepared to vote in the affirmative on this item.
So the one thing I will say is, and it's perfectly fine, we're prepared to move forward today. We have, I think, one other potential customer that is probably going to be eager to take advantage of this once it's in effect, which is 60 days from when it's adopted. But other than that, there's not a ton of time pressure. If we wanted to push this to the next meeting, it's not something that, staff won't be offended.
Well, what would
if we
happen
felt like
if we
we wanted
push
more
it for the next meeting? What's going to take place differently from right now? What would
Yeah,
you
I
guys
think
do
these are some of
differently?
the same issues we've been working throughout the time we've been developing this policy.
So-
So I don't know, I don't know that there would be changes or not.
Did I hear
I just wanted to point out that there is that option.
Did I hear Dean say that regarding consolidation, he didn't mind paying new connection fees? He was just concerned that he may not be able to get a connection at all? And if so, did
Yeah.
I also hear him say that I heard fee schedule, so would he consider if we consolidate, and is there a way to where he just pays people who do this consolidation, pay a lesser fee if they're concerned about not having capacity?
Yeah, so those are
Possible?
some of the things that we've thought about that we think would probably require. So that's where we get into changing rate
218.
structure,
Gotcha.
and it becomes more complicated. And
So-
that's part of the discussion over the next.
We're
6 to
starting-
8 months.
Aren't we starting a Prop 218 study? So can we include this portion of a commercial in there? I mean, we're doing it anyway,
Yeah,
why
I
not?
think we did actually have the consultant take a look at this, and we can talk through whether it makes sense to have a sort of a discounted rate for that.
And
or
so-
not. I mean, really
Can-
within Prop 218 constraints, it's really hard to justify a differential cost structure.
So why couldn't we, during that Prop 218 study, have a particular agenda item that we could talk specifically to us board members and any members of the public that want to listen about the commercial side of this 218, what we're just talking about? If they want to consolidate and not pay the full fee that others do for capacity, can we do something?
Maintain capacity.
Yeah, can we do something different? How can we do that? So we could move forward today, and then, Dean, we are starting this rate study. If we have the component in that study specifically for what he was hoping to do, which is not pay for the most part, and have service available when he's ready. So,
But how
I'm going to move forward if you bring that back.
How can we
mean, if
do
you bring
that? Excuse me, Cindy, can we do that without having him pay his?
Well, for right now,
the-
we're gonna have to, if we decide to approve the way it is, which I am ready to move forward as well. But when we do our rate study, in an agenda item, have the consultants here talking to us and explaining if we could or why we couldn't. And Dean could certainly be there in that open session. And let's, maybe it might be a real challenge to do it, but maybe it's worth doing that little bit of challenge. But because of the 218 constraints, we have to be very sensitive what we can and can't do.
Yeah, I think
So-
it would be very difficult to do within 218, but happy to have the consultant report. on that.
Exactly, and give us, maybe let Dean say what he wants to say, to the consultant, what he's looking for, and we as all the board member could as well. So Dean, did you hear what we're gonna probably do?
Well, could I ask one more question, please? And I know
Uh-huh.
that Dean is very, very involved in this policy change. And all I've ever heard was, having him on a conference call. I've never seen him attend any of our meetings or anything. So what's wrong with a study session? Just to talk specifically about this.
So don't move forward today, just do a study session with Dean one more time and bring it back in December? Is that what you're
So
asking for?
that's-
We
No,
have
we have
met with
we have
Dean
60
and I think
days.
these are some of
Let
the.
me hear, is that Bertha, is that what she
Yeah,
wanted to do?
that's what, I think that's a legitimate one because, okay, let's take, I'm snowed in. I can't be down at the meeting today. I'm having a little bit of a problem with the sound, So I want to
Okay.
I want to hear him in person.
Okay. So Bertha, if we decide to do that, what are we bringing back differently than what we have today? What are you and Dean asking for? If we're, from what it sounds like Dean wants is for the most part to be able to disconnect or stop using it at a location and not paying any fees to maintain that, and then shut it back on when he wants. And we don't do it for residential. Nobody that I know of in the public utility for sewer and water do that.
Right.
And so with that being said, if we can't, because we're getting into the rate structure where 218 is involved, that's where it's tricky. So why couldn't, I don't see moving this one more month, how that's going to make a change. I think we need to hear from the consultant of, is there a way to do it in the 218 process? Which I'm open to hear that. I'd like to know that. And that could potentially help Dean if it can be done. And we are doing the study, so why not have that one extra component to tell us one way or the other what it takes to do that?
And we did do some research on that front. We met with Dean in person and these are the same issues we were talking about. We reached out to several other agencies and couldn't find any that allow.
Well,
and I think within, like I said, within the constraints of Prop 218, it'd be very difficult to find a way to do that.
But with
Yeah, I
that being
don't think we're
said,
gonna
we
make any
are going
changes.
through the process. Let's,
Happy to, yeah.
and
absolutely.
let the consultant tell us. I mean, not that I don't believe you or anything, but
No,
let's hear the
absolutely.
consultant
No.
who does it. So Bertha, one more time, if we moved this want to the next meeting, what would happen from now to the next meeting to make you feel one way or the other, perhaps different from today?
Well, just more thorough investigation or coming up with, other answers. And of course, this is a very vital part of the Arnold community. And so that's why I want to make sure that everything's smooth. I know we're going to make decisions that are not going to be, agreeable to everybody, but
Well, that's exactly
just-
what I think we have here, and I can't imagine anything that's going to change us to be more like Ebbets Pass Gas and allow all of our customers to come and go as they please and
Right,
affect our
no.
revenue greatly.
Yeah.
That's the issue that we're talking about.
but-
Next meeting, that's not going to change. We've already talked about it. We've talked about it here. We got a motion and a second here. Let's just take a vote. If we vote to abandon this and not push it through, then we still have all kinds of motions, opportunities for, and agenda items for our future meetings. But I doubt that more time, with as much time as we've spent on this, as much time as staff has spent on this, punting this to next meeting isn't going to change anything.
Okay, so Scott, we will go ahead and take a vote. I just have a question. I really, do we need to change the motion to make sure that we get the 218 portion that I was talking about?
No.
Direction of
No.
staff.
The direction of staff.
And you don't have a motion yet.
Well, no, actually, we,
Yeah, but you have to
Okay.
close the public hearing and then you can. make a
thank
motion.
you. Okay, so Dean, thank you very much for your comments. And at this point, we see no more comments out there. All right, so we're going to close.
Just for the record,
What-
I don't want it to be lost that I am appreciative of all that staff has done here. I realize that while this may not be an ideal solution for us, I don't want to discount the fact that I know that CCWD has taken this under serious consideration and has put a lot of effort into this, and I am appreciative of that.
Well, thank you, Dean. And we are going to try and address what you talked about, but it's going to be in a different scenario. And I hope that you attend that meeting in person when we have the consultant here, when we're going through the rate study, because that I think is what you're looking for. So we'll make sure that you get notified. Keep an eye on those agendas. Okay. So,
And
all
we'll
right, so
make
we're going to
sure-
close.
Yeah, and make sure he gets them in a timely manner, because did I just not hear that he just got it yesterday? Or,
Well, if they all go out on Friday, we're all busy and I get that. So Dean, you've got to make sure you look for your agendas, please. Okay, so I'm going to close the hearing, the public comment. So public comment is closed. Can I get a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion adopting ordinance number 2022-02,
And do we have a
Amend-
second?
amending the commercial account review policy and rescinding ordinance 9806.
All right.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a first and a second. Can I get a roll call vote? Rebecca?
Director Underhill,
yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Thomas.
Yes.
President Cicada.
Yes. All right, so that update passed and that'll go in effect 60 days from today, January 8th, I believe. And we will direct staff to please make sure a component of the Prop 218, let's look at that, the scenario that Dean is asking for.
We'll do, and we'll follow up with Dean regarding
Yeah.
the agreement to. the
Yeah,
property.
and Dean, we'll make sure we keep you on the list to get agendas. So if you could just take a quick peek and when you see anything about rate study Prop 218, that's your cue to get involved, okay? All right, thank you, everyone. I appreciate all your time that everybody put into that, making that happen. All right, so we're going to move on to new business, 5A, presentation on investment report for the period ending September 30th. We have Carlos with Chandler Asset. Hi, Carlos.
Directors, thank you very much for having me, having us come out to update you on the investments. I brought my colleague Kara Rayner Sanchez. Kara and I collaborate very closely on this investment relationship. We want to update you on what's going on in the markets and in turn in your portfolio. We're going to do this succinctly, but of course, this is your time to ask me questions on the portfolio, on the markets, on investments, and on the overall economy. Okay,
Thank you.
we're going to do that in 10 minutes or less.
What's that? Hopefully it'll come up again.
Maybe it will. Perhaps if we start on page number 5, I think is probably the most relevant place. The first half of the book that you have in your packet is, and it's also up on the screen. I want to highlight what we've been facing from an economic perspective in the United States and also globally. As you're aware, from the time that the economy reopened after the coronavirus pandemic, we've had significantly high inflationary pressures in the American economy as well as globally. If you're looking at the book, we're looking at page number 5, the chart on the left-hand side. Up on the board, and it's this one right here. Yep, the next one after that, because we're going to back up to that one in a minute. There we go. The chart on the left-hand side is the Consumer Price Index. That's an index that many of you may be familiar with. It's a change in prices year over year for a basket of goods is how we measure the inflation in the United States. That hit a record high. I wouldn't say a record high, but an all-time high, at least in the last generation, on June of 2020, this past summer, 9.1% year over year inflationary growth. We haven't seen inflation numbers like that since the Reagan era, since the early 1980s. You may recall if you purchased a home in the early 80s, your mortgage, even with good credit quality, was probably like a credit card rate. It was a double-digit rate. Well, we're not quite there yet with inflation, but we've got very high inflation. It's the highest we've seen in 40 years. This is as a result of a reopening of the economy after the pandemic, a result of the war in Ukraine, which is putting pressure on commodities, as a result of record stimulus from the federal government, $5.5 trillion from the CARES Act, ARPA money that you're familiar with, as well as supply chain disruptions, and pent-up demand, higher savings rate. It put money in people's hands, and people went out to spend it when the economy reopened, and businesses had to reopen to meet that demand. So this is why you have competition for goods and services to deliver goods and services to market, and as a result, you've got very high prices. Unchecked, this can derail an economy. It can destroy people's savings, and it's very difficult to keep to stay on top of. So as a result of this, the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates to decrease liquidity in the markets. By raising the overnight lending rate between banks, they are in essence making it more expensive for businesses to borrow, for banks to borrow from one another, thereby reducing the amount of money circulating in the system and hopefully bringing prices down. Now, one of the measures, if we back up to page number 4, one of the measures that people are really keenly focused on is the chart on the left-hand side, which is showing you the growth in non-farm payrolls on a month-over-month basis. We've been generating, and we've been averaging somewhere around 360,000 jobs a month. The last reading was 261,000 jobs. Before the pandemic, we only really needed somewhere around 110,000 jobs generated every month to absorb new entrants into the markets. Right now, we're generating significantly more job openings. So the job market is very strong. To attract labor, one of the reasons we have high inflation is most businesses, local governments, they have to raise what they offer in terms of wages. So there's definitely pressure there. But when the Federal Reserve tries to slow the economy down by raising rates, one of the things they have to be they worry about is if we tighten financial conditions, we could slow things down enough to where we enter into a contraction, a recession. And if that's the case, we could lose jobs. So they're always worried that they don't want to lose jobs. Jobs are a good thing. So right now, with the strong labor market that we have, it gives the Federal Reserve reasons to continue raising rates, because even if they're slowing the economy down and it damages the employment market right now is so strong that it can afford to lose, it can shed some of these job openings on a monthly basis. I think it's also important that the rest of if we turn to page number 8, I'm just going to highlight a couple of things. Manufacturing is slowing down because of the Federal Reserve's moves to slow the economy down. Manufacturing is slowing down. Consumer spending is slowing down. There's a chart in there about retail sales. Housing is now starting to come under pressure. You can see on the chart before you, housing prices were at a peak of a 21% year-over-year growth. Nationwide on average, that's come down to somewhere around 12, a little bit over 12% year-over-year growth. Prices are starting to come down because there's less buyers. There's less buyers because interest rates are higher, and that pushed up 30-year fixed rate mortgages. It's now costing somewhere around 7% or higher to borrow money for 30 years to buy a home, and that knocks out participants out of the market. So signs here and there that the economy is definitely slowing down. Leading economic indicators are showing us that the economy is slowing down. A lot of things are slowing down. On average, we believe that the Federal Reserve will likely continue on its path to slow the economy down so long as inflation remains elevated. And then if we turn down to page number 11, the chart on the right-hand side on page 11 is showing the effective Fed funds rate. That's that overnight lending rate that the Federal Reserve sets a target for. That target was raised a week and a half up to 4%. So this number that you see here at 3%, the chart on the right, is now on its way up higher. It's moving rates even higher. And the result of it, if you go to the next page, is that overall, longer term yields are significantly higher than they were a year ago. And that's the chart on the left-hand side. So why am I going on about the economics here? Why is this important to you? The reason this is important is because as the Federal Reserve slows the economy down by making it more expensive to borrow and diminishing that liquidity, that access to capital by making it more expensive to do that, to borrow it, they're also impacting interest rates in the markets, and they are now significantly higher. If you look at a yield for a 2-year Treasury bond, that's a loan that a buyer of that type of bond is lending the government their money for 2 years. Back in December of 2021, what that would have netted you would have been 0.7% per year for each of those 2 years. That's how low yields were because the Fed had lowered rates to basically stimulate the economy out of coronavirus. Today, that yield that 11 months ago was yielding 0.7. Today, that's yielding closer to 4.7. So yields are significantly higher. And I'm going on about this because it's doing two things to your portfolio, which Kara is going to explain in just a second. The first thing is that as interest rates in the markets are higher and keep going higher, when we have maturities, we hold bond securities per the law, and these have a maturity date. And when they mature, or if we sell something before maturity, we are able to reinvest those funds in increasingly higher yields, higher yielding investments, because that's what's available in the markets today. And that's good news. It means that your interest income into the future should continue to go up, and we'll show you some figures on that. The second impact that these higher rates have on your portfolio is that when you're in the bond market, it's just a truism, and I'm happy to explain the math behind it. But when interest rates in the markets go up, the value of your existing investment goes down. It's an inverse relationship. So when we show you these returns, we're going to show you both components, the two ways you make money off of your bonds: interest income, which is now on its way up, and the change in fair value on paper, which now has been going down. And because of this significant rise in interest rates, the drop in value has been more than what you've earned in interest income. That's a negative return. The good news about that, of course, is that drop in fair value, you don't realize it unless you were to sell the entire portfolio, which you don't. You primarily hold the maturity. If you hold your bonds to maturity, that change in fair value goes away. You receive your principal at maturity, and you can go back out and reinvest it. So those are the key things to remember. Higher rates, it means higher interest income. The value on paper of your bonds is going down. Blended together, that drop in value was greater than the interest income, but that interest income should continue to go higher down the line. Right now, we're managing for you some operating funds. We also manage two pools of money from some debt proceeds, the water loan and the wastewater loan. And then, of course, you also have money in the state pool, local agency investment fund, which we don't manage, but we report on here as well. So that's an overall overview of what's happening in the economy. We can show you specifics on the numbers, but before we do that, perhaps you have some questions for us.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is we're just in it for the long haul. So with that being said, do we project pulling any money? Is this? Sorry about that. So we're in it for the long haul. Do we have any projection of needing any of that that's sitting there? And so how's that going to affect us? Are we planning on accessing any of it prior to the end of maturity?
Interesting timing this week, but not prior to maturity. That's the goal, and you guys feel free to jump in. But yeah, we try not to do that prior to maturity, but we're looking at relatively short terms because we need to be relatively liquid, and so we do need to draw on those funds from time to time to make sure there's not going to be a penalty when we do that.
I hear that, you're holding our operating fund, which that's one that we draw from, I would assume, every month. So what is the longest term of some of our investments? Are they 3 years? Are they 1 year? Where are we at?
Director, I'll answer that question first, then I want to go back to your prior question to give you a little bit more detail. We are able to buy between overnight to 5 years. We average a portfolio of somewhere around 2.5 years, but there are investments that go out as far as 5 years. Your question was, These are operating funds. Can we draw on them? Do we have to sell them before maturity? Are we going to realize some of these losses? I think is the point you're getting at here. So one of the things that we did with staff, starting with with Jeff Meyer's predecessor, Rebecca Callan, is that we did a cash flow analysis to answer that very question. And what we did is we reserved funds that are operating funds that are needed for immediate liquidity. And the district's strategy was to maintain those funds in the state pool, where those funds also are impacted by that change in fair value. But the state pool holds them very, very short so that it doesn't have to pass it on to you. So you can pull your money out without realizing those. And those funds that are kept in that pool, you can pull and will not be impacted by that. Those funds that you don't need in the long term, in the long run, which you stated, we're in it for the long haul. That's exactly right. That was the strategy of this portfolio. That's the other part of your operating funds and the portfolio that we manage. That's more of a long-term money that you're not anticipating needing anytime soon, although we can have it available for you pretty quickly if we needed to. It would just be subject to market forces. But those funds are for the long haul, and that's the part that you don't anticipate having to pull any money out of. So we bifurcated the portfolio for that very reason you just stated.
So, Michael, if we have to reach in somewhere and show a loss, does that have to come to the board for approval, or is that in your hands?
No, so like I said, we're managing it to avoid having to realize those losses. It's something we would probably report out on, but an example of that just happened this week, and it's credit to our accounting staff and Catherine, who, navigated this in a way. We had some portion of the loan proceeds that didn't mature until, is it tomorrow?
Yesterday.
But we actually needed some of that. We needed some funds prior to that, but we were able to we draw on those LAIF funds to cover that cost so that we're not realizing any of those losses or taking any penalties, and then reimbursing it from.
Well,
so we're managing those things in a way to hopefully avoid any of those negative impacts.
But there's a certain pot of funds that's in it for the long haul. So who gets to authorize when you're pulling some of that out? The board, I would imagine.
No.
No.
I don't think that would be that we wouldn't bring that to the board. We would report out on it.
Okay. I guess, is that normal?
That is normal, Director.
Okay. What's normal? Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions before they move on? Scott or Bertha?
None. I'm good.
All right. So we're going to move on with Cassandra.
Kara.
Kara.
Yes, thank you. So we're
Hi,
just going
Kara.
to shift to the next section. Jumping down to page 15, the compliance. And what this is this compliance statement that's available in the monthly statements as well as the quarterly report. And what this is showing here is that your portfolio that we manage on your behalf is within compliance of your investment policy as well as California government code. Jumping down to the next page of portfolio characteristics, it's one more. Perfect. So what you have here, this is the core portfolio that Carlos had mentioned. It is the one managed out to a 1 to 5 year U.S. Treasury and agency benchmark. We're going to focus on that middle column under 930 portfolio. So you can see your average maturity is 2.60 and your average modified duration is 2.38. Carlos had mentioned a little earlier was just under about 2.5, which is pretty close to what you see the benchmark have for 930. The average purchase yield is 0.94. So that is what the portfolio is earning today. And then the average market yield, if you were going to go out to the market and buy this exact same portfolio or sell your portfolio, it would be for that 4.33%. You can see a very high quality portfolio of AA, AA1, and those are both S&P and Moody's. And then the portfolio value, you can see it went down a little bit. We're at just over 18.5 million. Jumping down to the next page, the sector distribution. This gives you an overall glance of the core portfolio that we manage. You'll see it increased in the U.S. Treasury on the left-hand side. We're starting to see that's a bit safer for us to invest in right now. And those yields are very competitive compared to the other opportunities that we've had. Jumping down to page 21, investment performance. Perfect. And then can you scroll up just a little? So what this shows is Carlos had mentioned earlier the difference between the income earned, which is the top portion with investment earnings, and the change in fair value. And that shows you the unrealized gain and loss of the portfolio. Now, what this is showing is that the portfolio is earning money. So you still have that 119,775 that the portfolio had earned within this time period up there. And then down below is that change in fair value that you're seeing. That is not realized unless it is sold. Okay, perfect. And then on to the next page, what we're going to take is that information and look at this other investment performance slide that we have. As Carlos mentioned, it is negative. We started the portfolio about a year into the pandemic, and that was after we suggested that the district wait to invest and see kind of what is happening there, and then started investing now. So over time, as we take investment opportunities that the securities have higher yields, hopefully we'll see the performance improve. We're going to jump down to the next page, and what this shows is the historical average purchase yield. And as you can see, with the purchases that we've been taking the last few months, it has been going up significantly. And over time, as we reinvest any maturities, you'll see that continue to rise.
For one more page, I just want, the reason we wanted to be succinct and quick about this, but Director, you had asked, what if we needed money, if we needed to pull money out? Page 24, it's the reporting account. That money, the 16 million that's listed there in the 930 column, that's the amount. We don't manage that amount. That's the amount currently invested in the state pool. That's your liquidity that you pull from and not have to realize any losses or gains on it for that matter.
Okay, so with that one, we're going to jump down to the next section for consolidated information. And what I just want to point out for this one, perfect, thank you, is that this consolidated account is just the core and liquidity. So the two accounts we've already discussed, and you can see the difference in the total market value per the withdrawals that occurred during that time period. And then just jumping down to the next page for sector distribution, you can see the percentage of that portfolio that's in LAIF in the September 30, 2022 pocket. You've got almost 40% in LAIF, and that's the readily accessible cash. And that's what Mr. Minkler was speaking of how they withdrew from LAIF in order to help minimize any losses from the withdrawal. So we're just going to jump one more section. What we have next down in the next section is the debt proceeds. So these are funds that we started managing in August or September. And you can see we have this separated out for two accounts. We have the water loan and the wastewater. So initially for the 930, we don't have an 831 investment time period for you here. So it's just a 1 month snapshot. But what you can see is we have an average maturity of 0.13 and modified duration of 0.12. That's because we've been requested by Jeff to keep that very short, so it's able to be accessed frequently for funds. And the average purchase yield is 2.89 with an average market yield of 3.04%, which is more than what is currently being earned in LAIF. And then we're just going to skip down to page 35. And this will show you the sewer loan information, and this is where I'll wrap up. The sewer loan is at 0.24 maturity and 0.24 modified duration with an average purchase yield of 3.17 and an average market yield of 3.44%. Now, those two portfolios are totaling about $30 million, and we'll manage those to the cash flows that we've discussed with Jeff, Mr. Minkler, and Catherine. Any questions on any of that information we presented?
Just to point out, those yields are basically covering our interest, right? So we're not, I mean, they're essentially free loans,
Right.
which is
Amazing.
Well, it's something we
totally intentional, by the way. I planned that.
Well done.
It's something we haven't seen in about 15 years. The interest rate environment in the United States and globally has been so low. We have not been able to see a condition where a local government can borrow money and effectively cover its loan with its earnings on that borrowed money. We haven't seen that in about 15
How
years.
come we didn't get more?
But But with that, as Mr. Minkler mentioned, if you look at any of the purchases that have occurred in the portfolio within the transaction ledger, you'll see some yields that are above 3% and into 4% too. So just higher, very different than when this portfolio came into our hands. And that's all I have to say, unless there are any questions. Or Carlos, do you have anything else to add?
No, just keep in mind, these portfolios are designed by law for safety and liquidity.
Yeah.
They're debt instruments. You're not allowed to buy anything else. To give you an idea, the S&P 500, which is a broad measure of stocks in the United States, that's down 20% year to date.
Yeah.
So yes, this is performing as designed.
Nice. Bertha, do you have any questions? Any
Oh, no,
comments?
I'm good. Thank you.
All right, Scott, what about you? Scott, do you have any questions or comments?
No, sorry about that. I keep forgetting to unmute. I'm good. Thanks.
All right, Russ?
Carlos, the only question I have, you started off by saying that in the Reagan years, that the interest rates were very high. As I recall, it was during the Carter years that they got, I'm old enough to remember that. So.
Director, good point, and I do. Maybe I don't look it, but I was around back then, and those rates were even, the inflation rates were higher. Back then, we were facing a period of stagflation, where you had a combination of high unemployment as well as high inflation, which is unusual. That's also an inverse relationship between those two forces. And that was a very difficult time for the United States. It really stunted growth. The Fed's moves, they've raised interest rates 6 times since we began this tightening phase. It's much tighter monetary policy. The last 4 moves they've done at 0.75% each move. That's significant. They haven't done that anything bigger than 0.25% since the early 90s. So that's the fear. The fear is that we have persistent inflation. And if we have a slowdown in the economy where we now start to lose jobs and the unemployment rate goes to 8% or 10%, double-digit unemployment, that's dangerous, and that's stagflation. That's frankly why the Federal Reserve has moved aggressively, and they're not done. They've signaled to the markets that there are likely 1, perhaps 2, maybe more tightenings, as long as inflation. So right now it's at 8.2% is where inflation is year over year for CPI. They look at a different measure of inflation. It's in there, but right now that second measure, the way they look at it is 5%. They have a target of 2%. As long as that stays above that 2% or out of that 2% range, they're going to continue raising rates. So we're not through this dynamic. The bad news is the value on paper is going to continue falling. The good news is the interest income you're going to pick up as we reinvest will be higher.
I had to borrow some money on a piece of property back in that period, and the interest rate that I was it's the first time I ever heard the term variable interest rate, and it started off very not low but manageable, and it went up and up and up and up just very rapidly, and I was paying 22% on a building, a commercial loan on a building. It's just crippling. So
Someone might call that usurious, but yes. Yeah.
But hope it doesn't get back to that.
All right, well, if there's no more comments, thank you. That was very informative for me. I
Yeah, really
appreciate that.
appreciate you guys coming. This is
Yep,
super thorough.
it was
and
great.
Always good to see you. Good to see you in person again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you, directors, for having us.
You're welcome. Thanks.
We should have
Thank you very
moved
much.
into the beginning.
Yeah, that was very good. It was very helpful for me. All right, we're going to move on to item 5B, discussion action for award of a design services contract for the Copper Cove wastewater tertiary improvements.
Could we maybe take a
A recess?
5-minute break?
Okay, let's take a 5-minute break. Sorry, Charles. Oh, wait, get up one more time, would you?
Sit down, Charles.
I will take a 2-minute. That piece of chocolate was really good. Okay, let me know when you're ready, Rebecca. All right, we're back from recess. So we're going to move on to item 5B. Charles?
So that, yeah, this item is for the design contract for the upper code, it's our tertiary improvements. And, oh, thank you. And so a little more than a year ago, we put out our request for proposals. And then on October 26, 2021, we received 3 proposals from these 3 firms, Hydroscience, Keller Associates, and NextGen. At that time, staff we had a committee of staff members evaluate the proposals. And staff deemed the firms, the statement of qualifications acceptable. From those proposals, we elected to hire Keller Associates at the January 26th board meeting. And Keller, in the past year, Keller's been progressing with the design. So I think at this juncture, we've found that, we've been coordinating with U.S. Army Corps of Engineers and Section 219 letter agreement, and their expectation is to have a 50% design. I think at this point, we're feeling that the best direction is to work to change from Keller to another firm to complete the remainder of the work. And our recommendation for that would be Hydroscience. And included in your agenda packet, so they had original scope of work in addition to their statement of qualifications. So that was the basis for the scope of work. We did make some adjustments to that scope of work, and we've updated the fee, and that's what's attached to your proposals. Let's see, Bill, are you still available?
I am.
Bill
Hi,
Slunter?
Charles.
Yeah.
Just activated my mic and camera.
So Bill Slenter, he is with Hydroscience. He's the project manager. We've been working with Bill on the Arnold project for about a year now, and they're about at almost at 100% design for that project. Staff has worked well with Hydroscience. We've had a really effective working relationship with them. So Bill, maybe you might want to introduce yourself and just maybe provide a little bit of background about Hydroscience.
Before we get there, I'm sorry. So we issued a contract with Keller for
Correct.
the 1.1, and so they finished everything that was asked of them in that contract?
Okay, I apologize. No, we're not fully, we did not fully complete that scope of work. We've got through a preliminary design process, and then we started to transition into design. And I think that at this juncture, we just felt that that it was time to maybe
So you want to make
change directions.
change direction for whatever reasons.
And we
And-
will at some point, I think, address those questions about why we're
Okay.
changing directions.
So, but we have a contract with them. Are we going to have to pay them the full amount? And did they earn the full amount?
We're like, as Charles said, I think we're just kind of at a logical point where, because at the end of the preliminary design report, we're at a kind of a clean point where we can make a transition.
And Keller's okay with this?
Yeah.
Or, I mean, not that they have a choice, I suppose.
We're working through that.
Oh.
I think it's just like any other contract. They perform the scope of services up to the point where you as the owner are satisfied with those services. And then, where you want to make a transition, you agree on what work's been completed and the value of it.
So Matt, being the attorney that you are here,
Which is probably
awesome. So with us getting out of this contract, this is all gonna be okay?
So, yes.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Matt.
Or are we
Yeah,
not
so,
allowed to talk
well,
about it?
we are still closing out that contract, yes, but we do have a right to terminate that contract. And there's a provision that allows us to do that, and we were at a point that staff felt was appropriate to make a break.
Should we perhaps not make this decision today and wait until
No, I think
Okay.
it's my understanding that you need to move forward with the design and get it completed. So there's nothing by awarding this that concerns me about closing out the other one.
Okay, so you won't come back to us and say otherwise. You know, we have some of those occasionally. Okay. Sorry, Charles,
I do
go
have
ahead and
I have
introduce.
a question, Charles, regarding the funding or the, what was the original amount of the Keller contract?
So
signed.
it's the one that was approved by the board on January 26th of this year was $1,188,301.
Okay, and was that for just design?
Well, there were multiple components of the design and some of those are reflected in most of those are reflected in the new scope, but
Yeah, it's a design agreement. It's a phased approach to design, so it had multiple components to it. And that's where we decided to, between those phases, decided to make a transition.
Okay, and what have we agreed with Keller? What is the dollar figure of the contract that we're going to be paying for the services to date?
We're still finalizing that.
Okay, there's not have dollar figures been discussed? Or are we looking?
yeah,
at paying
they have
50%
sent
of it?
us.
About 50%, or are we about 70%? That's approximately where are we at in? And then my next question is going to be, and then how much is our contract with Hydroscience going to be? And what is this, what is this costing us? And I realize what's going on. I think everybody, realizes what we're parting ways with the contractor that we
have paid them so far $191,000 and they've invoiced us for about $400,000. But we're still in negotiations with them as to what work's been completed and how much we owe them.
Okay, I'm good.
It's unfortunate that we have to do this, but I wish we could roll the clock back and have an opportunity to do this with Lee and Rowe. It would have saved us millions, but.
I have a
Anyway.
question. I have a question, please.
Stand
Charles?
by, Bertha. Bertha,
Oh,
stand
okay.
by. Go ahead, Russ.
No, I'm comfortable with what's comfortable isn't quite the right word, but I accept what we have to do here. So.
Okay, go ahead, Bertha.
Okay, I just want to make sure that we have a schedule that we have established, and under the new contract, and that we're going to follow that very closely to make sure all of our commitments are met.
Yes,
Is that-
I have worked out a detailed schedule. Bill has put together at my request a detailed schedule, which he provided to me last Friday, and which I do have available if you would like to see it. And yes, we will be following that schedule.
Monitoring it adequately.
Correct, right.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, do we want to just
Let's talk to Bill.
talk to Bill? Hi, Bill. Your turn.
Hello. Thank you, directors. Just brief introduction. My name is Bill Slunter. I'm a principal and also a project manager with Hydroscience Engineers. Our firm celebrating our 25th anniversary this year. We're a small Northern California firm, 3 offices, Sacramento, Berkeley, and San Jose. I am currently working with Charles and Damon and their team on the Arnold wastewater plant project. We've been doing that for about a year, and it's been going very well. A lot of collaboration. We do have a master schedule on that job. Developed a Microsoft project. All the tasks are linked, and we update it each biweekly meeting, so that coordination that I think concern was raised about, and just knowing where we are in the schedule and are we hitting the milestones. I fully intend to follow that same process on Copper Cove. We're very appreciative of the opportunity to work on that project. We worked with Charles to make some updates to the original proposal and still honor the overall cost and intent of what we proposed in this revised agreement, task, scope, and schedule that we put together to pick up where the project left off and bring it to its conclusion. So we're excited to work on it and appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you. Any other comments?
So, Bill, were you around 25 years ago when the company got started? You were 12 years old or 13 or what?
No, I'm in my 50s. I might look younger on camera, but I joined the firm in 2005. It was founded in 1997, but I was a consultant at that time, kind of on the younger end, working my way through. But I relocated to this area and joined the firm in 2005. So this is my longest stint, and I plan to stay here and retire here.
Okay, taking on this additional work isn't going to overtax your firm? I take it?
No, it won't. Actually, the Arnold project, as Charles mentioned, is at about 95% complete. So we expect to wrap that up in the next month and a half, at about which time we'll be ramping up on Copper Cove. And we've also hired a few great individuals to add to our team that we already have. And so we put together a work plan that we'll get this done.
Okay, is it going to be a problem for you that I live in Copperopolis? I'm going to be looking at.
We're going to be keeping an eye on things. Yes, absolutely. No, I'm happy to have your involvement.
Okay, thank you.
Oversight, or both.
Okay, Bertha, do you have any comments or questions?
No, I'm fine.
All right, Scott, how about you? Any comments or questions?
No.
All right, any public comment here in the building? Anybody online, public comment? All right, we get a motion?
So moved.
Yeah,
There you go. We get a second?
second.
All right, we have a first and a second. Rebecca, can you take the roll?
Director Underhill,
Yes.
Director Ratterman,
Yes.
Director Thomas,
Yes.
President Cicada.
Yes. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Charles.
Great, thank you.
Everybody else.
Go to
Thank you
work,
very
Bill.
much.
Thank you. All right, item 5C, discussion action regarding proposed customer service representative, one limited term position conversion to full-time employee. Hello, Stacy.
So today I am before the board to, with the help of Kelly Richards, our customer service supervisor, if needed, to request the board's approval on our recommendations to take our limited term customer service representative and turn that position into a full-time employee position. We have evaluated our need for changes in our organizational structure in the customer service department, something that staff does on a regular basis as we look through the demands of our business in each department. As you know, the customer service department deals with more than just simply answering the phones and taking payments. They're responsible for leak adjustments, refunds, return payments, secondary bill to, a list of items as you'll have seen in the agenda item report, including complying with new laws and regulations such as the lock-off regulations that were recently updated, and water conservation. So our customer service staff has to be very knowledgeable in all of these aspects and have done a great job at doing that. So what we are asking for today is to continue to keep the customer service department staffed with a total of 4 full-time employee equivalents. Since 2013, there has always been a level of there's been a level of 4 customer service staff. The classifications have varied since then, but that's where we have traditionally been fully staffed. The current customer service rep limited term position is scheduled to end in December of this year. And we're recommending that we keep that position to continue to maintain the 4-person customer service team. questions?
Yes. Well, go ahead, Russ, you go first.
Do I have to?
Yes.
Okay.
Russ has to go first with his comments.
Okay, you said that you would like to see us approve making 4 people, the fourth person instead of limited term, full-time equivalent. So, I'm assuming that is, your recommendation is based upon keeping the person who is the limited term and making that person the full-time? Is that what I'm hearing?
This is considered or this position lies within the SEIU, so we do still have to post it. We'll post it internally for the MOU, and then if we need to, we'll post it externally.
I think the other piece of that though is this is, just looking at the staffing level, not necessarily the individuals, what the appropriate staffing level is for customer service right now. That's the conclusion, that the recommendation at least that we're making.
It's been a constant refrain among the board members here to improve upon the customer service output and the results thereof. So I think that this, in my mind, is consistent with that hoped for outcome. So that's all I had to say.
Yeah, I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard. I think our customer service staff do an excellent job, but in looking at where we are, we think we'd be backsliding a little bit if we were to be short-staffed up there. So we feel like this is the appropriate staffing level.
Bertha, do you have any comments?
Oh, I'm all in favor of maintaining the staffing. I wanted to know if you had made any changes to the telephone system, because I haven't heard that in a while as far as customer service is concerned.
So we replaced the telephone system 2 years ago now.
Year and a half.
Year and a half. We haven't made any recent changes.
Okay, as far as procedurally, I know that you had a great big plan about if someone wasn't able to answer the phone, then a next person, you had a telephone tree or something like that.
Yeah, I think all of that has been implemented, and I think it's been successful. There's been, with all new technology, there've been some hiccups along the way, but I think for the most part, it's worked really well. We've simplified. I think so one of the first things Kelly did, I think, was straighten or streamline the phone tree and make it as easy as possible for customers to get a hold of a customer service representative.
Okay, because sometimes when I try to call the office, I'm put on hold, or they have to track down someone to answer the phone, and I get a little, I'm no different from any other customer. I get a little antsy because I'm not answered right away. And so
Yeah,
you have an answer for that?
I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard. I think there's always, going to be a certain amount of, even with 3 customer service representatives, it comes down to timing sometimes. There's times when those 3 are overwhelmed. So it's not always, we can't always guarantee that somebody is going to be able to get to every phone call right away. But we've made online inquiry forms. We've really tried to use different mediums for people to contact the district and get a quick response. So I think we've made a lot of progress in that regard. But if there's specific examples of instances where we need to make more changes, happy to have those discussions.
Okay, well, no, I'm satisfied, but I just wanted to make sure. Okay, that's fine.
Scott, do you have any comments?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I just remember talking about this. It was probably about a year ago when we approved this temporary, or maybe 9-10 months ago when we approved this temporary position, and it would be, that we knew would be leaving us at some point. And I think that the reasoning behind it at that time was the installing of all the new meters, the expectation of the change in the billing system, and the expectation of, with those two things going on simultaneously, that we were expecting an uptick in customer involvement with the district in questioning. As we're ending the meter installation and the and hopefully getting the bugs out of the billing system and getting to more stable environment, are we sure that this level of customer service need is going to continue?
Yeah, for the foreseeable future. I mean, there's, as Stacy mentioned, every time there's a vacancy or turnover, we always reevaluate to make sure that filling that position is in the highest priority, and or whether we need to make any changes. So we would always do that with any amount of turnover. But those systems at this point are still probably creating more work than they've saved. We're hoping to get through that and get to a point where they are creating, we're realizing the efficiencies that we know those projects can bring, but we're not there yet. So I think, from my perspective, for the foreseeable future, we need to maintain this staffing level, and we can reevaluate that in the future.
Okay, let me jump in.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah,
Go
with
ahead,
the,
Scott.
so thank you, Michael, for answering that. The other concern, well, I guess it's kind of the same thing. We've hired this person for a year and got good training. I'm going to guess that 9-10 months that they've been on board is very valuable. And I know we can't say right now who we're going to hire for this permanent position. Do we have an opportunity of continuing on with the same person that's been trained? Is that a possibility?
Yes.
I know we got to post it, interviews, and do all the proper procedures for California employment. But are we going to be hiring a brand new person that needs to be trained, or do we have a possibility of being able to hire an experienced a person that's been working in this position for the permanent position?
We definitely have that possibility. Yeah.
Okay, I had a very delicate question, but that's good. Thanks. I'm good.
Okay, so I don't take lightly, everybody knows this about hiring a permanent position. It's a commitment forever and ever for the district. And I'm not certain if I'm convinced that we are ready for this fourth permanent position. Back when we approved the temporary position, there were things that, what was it, that payroll was being done by HR, it should be back in accounting, accounting's doing some things with customer service. Has that all been changed?
No. So those are changes that are still, still in the works, but have not been implemented yet. I think.
Is that because of our Tyler?
We haven't updated Tyler with that finance module yet. So we don't have an HR module with Tyler yet.
So well, here's my thing is, I think, to me, it just seems like we move so fast. Okay, the solution to the problem is we're going to hire a full-time equivalent, get him in there. I reviewed last year when we did this, and the one change was adding the customer service supervisor, which I think has worked out really good. And I'm not opposed to it, but I just feel that we're going into it real quick when we're still having just so many problems with Tyler. You haven't made the changes that you said in a year that we would be able to do. We also had that temporary paid by motherload job. Again, I'm not ready to say no, but I'm not ready to say yes. And I just, how do we know this is going to be the answer to make customer service working good? It expires in December. Why can't we just go ahead and say, let's extend it for that, through the fiscal year, or at least another 3 months? And, I want to see the plan of the 4 people, let's finish Tyler, get it up and running. What the heck? Get accounting to do payroll, HR to do what they do, and customer service do what they do. Just putting this, making it a full time. We have that body there, and I believe they're doing a really good job. But is that really the answer? Okay, let's hire this one, and then a year from now, we need just one more over in accounting now, or whatever it is. It just, when we talked about the water resources, well, that was because it was during the budget, so never mind. Anyhow, I just don't think it's always the answer. It's having a full-time is the answer, because you haven't proven to me that that is the answer by having them in here. We haven't gotten those things squared away. Tyler's still not where it needs to be. I mean, we're only using it for utility billing. So how do we know that's the answer? If Tyler was supposed to be the efficient, all new computers, new phone sims, all this stuff for efficiency, perhaps we don't need that full-time person. I think right now, because we're going through the bumps and trying to work it out to get there. But how do we know today that's the answer?
So it wasn't a rush decision. This is something we've been evaluating over the course, over that period of time. Like I said, I don't foresee a time where we're going to reduce the staff, or we're going to be in a position where if we reduce the staffing level, we'll see drop-offs in service. I think that's the trade-off we would have to make. Where this isn't necessarily, as Stacy pointed out, an increase from the historical level of staffing in customer service. There's always been a supervisor or a manager position overseeing customer service with 3 customer service reps. We're just maintaining that staffing level. There was some hope that with the implementation of those new tools, we might realize enough efficiency and reevaluate the need for
let me back up.
Rep there. But as you know,
It wasn't the supervisor, the finance director. And so
no,
we have the new supervisor. So we've always just had one person. That supervisor's been in the customer service. I mean, why did the finance director get involved at one point overseeing it? The external affairs manager was doing it. This is even prior to Jess.
It wasn't finance director. So there has always been a manager that oversees the 3 customer service reps, in addition to who reported to the finance director. So whether that was.
So there was somebody reporting to the finance director in a way overseeing. So.
That's always been the case.
There was 3 people. Now we have 4 because
No,
the
there was 3
supervisor
customer
still
service
report.
representatives and then a manager who reported to the finance director. So there's 4 that were dedicated to customer service. And part of that time, it was the external affairs manager. Part of that time, it was the HR director. There have been dedicated times where there was a full-time dedicated staff person there. But really over time, what we've seen is the need for 4 people dedicated to that customer service.
So
Well, hearing you say that, I don't recall a point in time where we reduced the FTEs in that department to 3.
We have not.
So
Why are we here then?
it's currently allocated at 4.
That's right. What we did was when we added the customer service supervisor position,
Mhm.
we made a commitment to the board that we didn't want to, by adding the customer service supervisor position, and back up even a little further. We added the customer service supervisor position when one of our 3 customer service representatives resigned. So, but by adding that customer service supervisor position, we didn't want to lose the 3 customer service representatives that we have. So we created this limited term position with the commitment to come back to the board prior to the end of that term to evaluate whether it needed to stay at this existing staffing level, or if we were in a position where we could actually go down to a lower staffing level. That's where we are now. And the recommendation from staff is we need to stay at the staffing level that we've consistently been at in the past.
Which will be how many again? There's
3 customer
supervisor.
service representatives and a supervisor.
Well,
And a supervisor who reports to the finance director.
I'm not opposed to doing it. I just don't feel that it's been proven that this is the right solution. Our Tyler is still not up and running. I don't like the phone tree and the phone just because how nice if somebody really answered the phone. You know what I mean? For a change, people don't like pushing all those buttons. But Tyler isn't even working yet. So how do we have, you know, I could it be that we have a total of 4 in there and they're all working, you know, meaning that we have a working manager, sorry. You know, I'm not opposed to it. I just don't feel that it's, you know, that is possibly the answer. Is that the answer? Why isn't Tyler up and running? You know what I mean? I mean, we should have all of our modules working in Tyler. So I'm not again, I don't want to say yes to it today. I think if we just extended it and focus on trying to get Tyler working and making sure that customer service, that 4th is the way it's supposed to be. What if we do this? Then you say, well, because of Tyler, we need to have one more person in accounting to help us do this. And then here we are again. I think you need to get through the full, you know, I hear all this efficiency and I get it. If we're spending all this money on computers and Tyler and all this stuff, is the answer having one more full-time person in there? I don't know.
Well, Stacy, can you answer this question here? We have a proposed recommended action. We're amending the fiscal year 22-23 personnel allocation. Michael just told me that we're currently allocated at 4. So why are we?
And one of those positions is only allocated to, it's allocated to end December of 2022 because it
One-
was a limited
One
term.
of the 4.
Yes.
Okay. Is Miss Richards going to weigh in on this at all?
Just a couple of things to note. Good afternoon, by the way.
Good afternoon.
We are not fully operational in customer service right now. And what I mean by that is there are several operations that are critical to our customer service, utility billing side of things that are not currently up and running as they should be full steam ahead. And that's one of the things that I alluded to at my last presentation to the board was that, you know, there's still processes and procedures that we need to tighten up in regards to some of these transitions that we've made regarding the software. In evaluation of, you know, our current state and then in setting our goals on where we'd like to be 6 months from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, we're really looking at what is going to be the long-term, you know, viability of customer service and maintaining the service levels that we have now or even elevating them further. And just in my experience, I see what we have going on in there. There's cross-training that is needed. Half of the staff in customer service, myself included, even with my experience, still needs cross-training on a number of things that we do here and just general knowledge of the district and its operations and its policies and procedures. You know, we have this temp position that we've had somebody occupying for the last year. And while she does provide, you know, certain services to the district, she has not been fully trained and brought up to speed as a FTE long-term customer service representative. So there would still be room there for growth and assistance on some of these things that we haven't implemented and started doing yet, including penalties, shutoffs, bankruptcies, payment arrangements, these types of things that are, again, critical to the operation that we're currently not doing. So in addition to some of these things that we've been battling in regards to the AMI and Tyler implementations, do I foresee that we're going to be in a better situation? We need to dive deeper into these and see how we need to build them first and how they're going to accommodate what we need to do here at the district. That's going to take time. If we cut one person, you know, one staff person out of that mix as we're trying to implement these things, there absolutely could be an effect to the level of customer service.
So I'm not asking that you, when this term ends, that she just goes away or whoever is in that position.
Sure.
I'd like to extend that temporary position even another year. I just don't feel that you have enough information to see if it's warranted. I mean, when do we expect Tyler to be working? When do we expect AMI to be working? And when all those things go away, okay, you know, the problems that I see that you need more staff is because of all the baloney that's going on with that. So I don't feel comfortable saying, yes, let's move it to a full-time position now, because maybe 2 years from now, if Tyler and AMI ever get done, we'll need that person. You know, you can't say goodbye to people. It's much easier to know that you're ready to go.
Well, we
So
we
anyhow,
can
that's just-
reevaluate staffing levels though, and we do that. And so I think
Well, tell
all
me
of
when
those
you're gonna,
variables-
tell me when Tyler and AMI are gonna be working. When is that gonna be working to where we don't have to,
So
that we know,
there's-
when's that bottom drop line?
I mean.
We
I-
can't do that,
Off
can
the
we?
top of my head, I'd have a hard time nailing down a date. We're still really early in the implementation of the finance.
How long have we been working on it?
So, well, we've been working on utility
2 years.
billing. I think that went live September 2021, if I remember correctly. There's been a delay in completing all of the optimization of that portion of it because of the AMI project. So with both of those things happening at the same time, you know, we're still working through some of the issues with utility billing in Tyler. We know
And this is a union position, correct?
this would be, it's currently not. But what, I think with all of those variables though, taken into account, I think, and we have taken a deep dive into this, but where I came down on it, when the reason why the staff recommendation, I think is to make it a permanent position is, I can't foresee a time when, even if we're at that point, 2 years from now or 3 years from now, or whenever it is, where we're then going to say, okay, we actually only need 2 customer service representatives, possibly. And if there's turnover in customer service, we can reevaluate that staffing level at that time. But to me, it's hard to imagine us getting to a point where we actually don't need 3 customer service representatives.
Well,
up front.
like I said, I'm not in favor of the full-time person, but I am in favor of continuing a temporary position. So if anybody else wants to make comments and move on, that's, you know, I don't think we can talk about.
I'd just like to ask Kelly, what sort of problems would be created if we did modify this, tweak it a little bit and just say, let's continue with the temporary thing until the end of the fiscal year? Problem?
I don't perceive that to be a problem. I do see that obviously we still have a lot of work to do as far as dialing, you know, Tyler in the way that we need it for utility billing. And obviously that's not lost on any of us that are operating in it every day. So having that person there, you know, so for a team of 4 is absolutely helpful. And in the process of also rolling out some of these other offerings to customers where, you know, it'd be critical for us to be on the phones every day, educating customers about some of these options like the portal and understanding, you know, conservation. We're still in a drought situation. We expect that there's going to be quite a bit of, you know, public outreach where we will need to be available to answer questions and assist. That would be very helpful to have that person there.
So my suggestion though would be, because I don't think all of these different variables that we're talking about are going to change significantly in 6 months. So if we were to do another limited term position, my recommendation would be at least through next fiscal year. So do an 18-month extension at a minimum.
I would be
I
okay
still
with that.
think a permanent position is the way to go, but I
I would
think we could work.
I like the
within that.
18, and you know, in that 18-month period, how nice if we could make definite that Tyler's up and working all modules.
We're doing everything we can.
I'm not saying you guys aren't, by the way, but I'm just, you know, what people's feet to the fire. I mean, Tyler and AMI, not our employees.
Yeah.
Something has got to be done on that. So
Okay. I have a question, and I'd like to know, in addition to the conversion, what are we talking as far as our increase in our customer base? How
That's a
much
good
have we
question.
increased?
Two.
That's a good question. I think I'd have to get back to you on that. I know we just did some research on it that I have somewhere, but I'll have to pull it
For
up.
our new
But
connections.
New connections, yeah, we can get those numbers for you.
Well, I'd like to make a motion because I can, I believe, right? I'd like to extend this position temporarily as a temporary for 18 months.
I'll second that.
So could I just clarify and if I understand the intent of the motion is through the end of the next fiscal year?
Correct.
So if we could say instead of 18 months.
23, 24,
At the end of the, yes, so I guess.
June of
through-
2024.
Right.
You got that. Okay, any public comment? Any
I
public
do have
comment
a
online?
question.
Go
I-
ahead, Bertha.
Yes, I'd like to know if we, again, I believe Cindy asked this, whether or not we could keep that same person who has been trained, so we don't have to start all over again if we go forward with 18 months.
Yes, that's one of
staff
our
level.
options.
That's a
That would be my
guarantee.
hope.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And for clarification, I think someone just said 2024. I'm pretty sure we're going to the middle of 2023 with this position, correct?
No, it
No.
would be June of 24 is the end of the next fiscal year.
Yep. So we want a whole, yeah. Through June of
Okay.
24. And if something happens sooner, like you want to switch it because you've got Tyler working and everything's awesome, bring it back. You know what I mean? It doesn't have to be 18 months. I just would like to see it. I'd like to
Okay.
see some progress on Tyler and stuff. The customer
Because-
service is doing a great job.
I think this accomplishes the same goal for staff, providing that fourth person and not going away after one year.
Right.
And I think it gives a comfort level for the board of not bringing on another permanent position. I think this is something I can support.
we're
All
still.
right, well, let's
spending
move on.
We're still spending the same money.
Yep.
For a period
Well,
of time.
on that particular subject though, is I'm sure that this temporary person may feel like we don't appreciate her efforts or something. Otherwise,
That's
we
not
would
it.
approve this today. That's not it. Taking it from a temporary position to a full-time position has associated with that a significant
Yes.
financial impact.
Yep.
And that's what I feel like that our
Yeah.
collective job here is to kind of oversee those expenditures, not making any kind of judgment about performance or anything. I'm trying to do my job. Okay, will you communicate that?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any public comment online? None? All right, we have a first and a second. Can we get the roll call vote?
So just to
Yes.
clarify for Rebecca, I think we're just doing this by motion and minute order, not the resolution. We're not amending the resolution that's in the packet. So really the amendment is the asterisks in the personnel allocation will just extend to through June of 2024.
Okay. Roll call vote.
I was a
please.
second.
I
Did
was
you
the
hear that?
first on that. That was kind of nice.
Okay, Director Underhill?
Okay, will you please read that statement to me again about what we're doing, approving?
Yeah, so this would be an extension of the limited term customer service representative through June of 2024.
As
And they
opposed,
can, yeah, and they can bring it back if they find that you're good to go and everything's up and running and 4 is the answer permanently.
So it's currently scheduled to expire at the end of December next month. And so this would extend that position through June of 2024.
okay, so that item 5C is not what we're doing. We're not adopting.
We're not using the draft resolution that was
Right,
provided.
okay.
We're just doing this by motion.
Okay,
Okay, Director Underhill?
yes.
Director Ratterman?
Yes.
Director Thomas?
Yes.
President Sakate?
Yes. All right, moving
Thank
on.
you, Stacy and Kevin.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. All right, moving on to reports, external affairs, monthly report. That would be Jessica.
Okay. I am giving an update for the past 2 months. So what's been going on in external affairs, for October and November. Okay, so first events. So the big one that we all attended, which was, I think, a really successful one, was the Water, Wildfire, and Wine. So first, the Aqua Region 3 meeting located at the Native Sons Hall. I think that was extremely successful, huge turnout. And, CCWD, even though that wasn't our event, we were definitely a huge part of that in the planning for the past, I don't know, 8 months probably. So it was great to see that as a successful event. And thank you to Damon, who hosted a great panel, and everyone else who was there presenting. And then immediately following that was Mountain County's reception. And I think that was extremely successful as well. Congressman McClintock was there, which was great to meet him in person. And up in the corner, we were on the napkin as the major sponsor, and I think our drink was a success. So it was a fun time for sure. And then the other big event that we had the last couple of months was the Calaveras Ag Users Workshop. So Brad Arnold put this one on in Valley Springs, working with our ag users here in the county to discuss the drought and other water use discussions. And it was really successful. There was a good dialogue with the ag users. Director Davidson was there as well. So that was good. Okay, and then project outreach and coordination. So there are 3 or 4 big projects going on that I've been involved with. The first one is the Tyler Smart Meter Portal. So currently Tyler and AMI, or Tyler and Mueller staff, are still working on getting both of the softwares integrated so that the meter information is communicating correctly with the billing software for the portal. So right now it's working for billing itself, but for this smart meter portal where customers are going to be able to see their usage down to the hour. That's not up and running yet, but I have been in communication with them, specifically with Tyler's staff, and they're almost done with that integration process. So hopefully over the next couple of months, CCWD will finally be able to start working with them on conducting some pilot projects. We already have some pilot accounts that they will be using for us to see and troubleshoot to make sure that they're working. And then just working through that process to make sure that the portal is functioning correctly before we roll it out to our customers.
Jessica, does Tyler give you any reason as to why an integration of any kind takes so long?
Well, I think this one specifically is challenging just based on the platform itself for that portal.
This is their portal, right?
So this is Tyler's portal, but they rely heavily on Mueller. So that's our AMI contractor. They rely heavily on Mueller to provide the correct data so that everything's integrating correctly and talking.
How do I say this? Have we paid Tyler for everything and we're not using it, or is it we've only paid for the billing portion, and then once the portal's done for the that integration for the online stuff, then we'll pay for that?
So as far as the portal goes, we are making sure that we're not paying for that until we're utilizing it.
Okay.
Yeah. So that one is moving forward. I know that the board's excited about it. Staff are excited about it. We're able to see that information on the back end with Centrix, which is Mueller's software. So our customer service staff are able to answer a lot of questions and work with our field staff to see if there are water leaks potentially on the customer side or on our side using that data. And it is really powerful. So we're excited about it. Customers are asking about it. So once this does roll out, we want to make sure that this rollout is smooth, that it does work properly. So hopefully in the next couple months, we actually will be able to share it with our customers, and I think it will help a lot. And then the other projects, AMI, that one's wrapping up, but we're still meeting weekly. The copper lift station project has kicked off, but we're working with contractors on that project. And then the Redwood Tank project, we are still working on building a few of those tanks. And now with winter here, we will likely be, continuing to work on that project, but it will be a little bit longer, and Damon can talk about that. Okay. And then the next topic is grant administration. So the last board meeting, we were discussing the South Fork McCallany River Forest Management grant. And so that one has been submitted to Sierra Nevada Conservancy. So we're excited to hear back on that one. I'm also working with putting in a little bit more money, ask for money for FEMA COVID assistance. So we have about $14,000 of potential funds that we could receive on purchases over the past year that have gone towards COVID. So FEMA is still allowing for reimbursement of some costs that public entities have accrued for COVID. So I'm working on that this month. And then, of course, quarterly reporting and department coordination. We're all working closely together to figure out what grants to potentially apply for, and then also just working together for, proper reporting for these grants. And then as far as IT updates, we are spending a lot of time on securing our network security hardening, really making sure that we're meeting JPIA recommendations so that we keep our insurance. So Brandon's spending a lot of his time on that. So it's been great with Dylan here over the past couple months. Brandon's been able to spend a lot of his time focusing more on that, while Dylan's been able to help our staff every day with various IT questions. And then one new thing that IT is doing, it's great that we now kind of have a more solid IT department, is we are working with department heads to make sure that IT is communicating well with them and making sure that we're meeting IT needs across the entire district so that things run more smoothly. And then also, I think the board meeting, this room, we have new mics and new camera. So everyone online, it looks really, really good, I think. So that's really exciting. Woohoo.
I don't know, the picture makes me look a little bald. I'm not crazy.
No, it's just because you're on TV.
And then just general district outreach. So public updates. We've had a couple of shutdowns over the past few weeks. So just making sure that the public is aware of these shutdowns. Ongoing partnership meetings such as Calaveras Conserves. We are still meeting, but not as often now that we are out of the summer months. But, there still is a drought. So we still have to communicate that to the public. And then one big thing, one shift in my outreach focus now is, really starting to think and strategize about the rate studies and making sure that as far as communication goes and education with the public, we're ahead of the game. So I am working on strategizing how we can conduct proper outreach prior to meetings with the public. And just making sure that we're educating the public on, what we do. And we are a complex agency and we do a lot of things. So we want to make sure that we highlight what we do. And then with that, one thing that kind of go hand in hand is to start really focusing on highlighting our projects and really pushing that out and pushing that good news out to our community. So I am working with staff really closely with operations department to make sure that we're highlighting these projects and celebrating these accomplishments and educating the public on, really all that we do. And so to kind of dive deeper in that, we have been working out in White Pines. That project is completed and Damon can talk a little bit more about that. But I was part of that project on the biology side. So I conducted all the biological monitoring and final reporting for that. And that project is done. It looks great. And as a little segue between my update and Damon's, we have created a video, so we're going to play it here and it's highlighting that project.
Awesome.
And once, after this board meeting, we'll push this out to the public too.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes. Change it. We'll ask. Let's confirm them.
Pretty short video.
Wow, that turned out good. Yes, thank you to the talented staff. That looks great, you guys. Everybody out there, that's really good. Nice video too. All right.
Was that Damon on the guitar?
Exactly what I asked.
I like
Nice video.
the
That's my
the first
request.
music had me kind of like, that's cool. All right, thank you, Jessica.
Okay, I have one question for Jessica.
Oh, we already closed that. No, go ahead.
You mentioned the ag, and have there been any changes about, rezoning ag up here in Abbott's Pass or, in Cindy's district or anywhere else? Because you always talk in terms of Valley Springs.
Not that I'm aware of, but Brad is on the line as well.
No, I mean,
All California
rezoning
ag.
to more ag land up country, no, there have not been any changes. Or the most recent general plan was adopted just a few years ago, so there were no major shifts in that direction.
Okay.
Yeah, and sorry, just to add to your question, Director Underhill, the reason we talk about Valley Springs most often is because that's really the only agricultural customers that we have that use raw water supplies for irrigation. So
Right.
we
No,
don't
no.
have that sort of.
Yeah.
Yep.
I was aware of that, but I was just wondering if there had been any changes, and no, the answer is no. Okay, that's fine.
Thank
Jessica,
you.
Jessica, this outreach that we did, or you folks did on Copper Cove recently for the repair, I thought that it really went well. It was, flashing lights and signs and everything. But were there any calls about that at all?
I believe there are very few. Kelly's not in here.
Repair
Yeah.
job? Oh.
Yeah, for the planned shutdown.
Mhm.
I believe there were only just a small handful of calls in the morning about air in the water, but nothing major.
Yeah, there was a small handful of dirty water complaints while it was such a large zone, it took us a while to flush it all out, but it was minimal.
Okay, Jessica? One more comment, and just the fact that I just love the videos of White Pines. And I'm sure that, this spring, it's gonna look just beautiful after, all the water with all the snow and everything we're getting now. So winter's here.
Yes, the spillway should look really nice. And what's exciting is that we'll be working on this project over the next few years and we'll continue to do work out there. So it's going to look better and better.
Uh-huh. Well, great job. Thank you.
Okay, don't walk away yet, Jess. Bertha, any other comments for Jessica? Okay, go ahead. All right, let's move on to report on the October 2022 operations and engineering departments. Damon, hello. Nice job out there.
Hello again. What's that?
Nice job out there
Oh,
at
thank you
White
very
Pines.
much.
And they did the dam by hand. Wow.
Can't say
They
enough.
had good lunch and all that good stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, Square Point, our construction crew is phenomenal. Can't
They
say
are
enough.
very talented, so awesome.
Yeah, and not to diminish the light we like to shine on all the other crews. They all do great work.
Of
So
course
the
they-
objective of this report is to show you what we've done in the past month. And as I always like to start, I'd love to start in the La Cantena, Rancho Calaveras area. So this is what a 6-inch AC water main break looks like. So this is a shear break. And as you can see, the pipe just literally just splits like this. So you have a kind of a break in a neat little circle all the way around the pipe. And the way to repair that is with a 5 or 6 band, depending on the size of the main, full circle clamp, as you see on the right.
And that makes the water stay in the pipe.
Yeah, those work,
Interesting.
they work really well. This is kind of a little bit hard to see, but this is an example of a flare replacement. So the flare is the flared fitting that oftentimes will thread directly into that AC pipe, and sometimes those threads fail. And when they were originally installed, oftentimes they put epoxy on the threads to try to keep it from failing. Maybe it was a little bit cross-threaded when it was installed 35, 40 years ago. So they're going to put some sort of goo on it to make it stay, and then it gives up the ghost. And then what we do is we come in with a full circle tap saddle like you see there and replace the flare. And then as you can see the coupling of a section of the service line. So you can see the 2 brass quick connections. Those are called like a shark bite connection, where you can just shove the service line right into that connector and it'll stay and last the life of the service line. So this work is ongoing. I think the Jenny Lynn crew this month, I want to say, let me look here really quick. They repaired, I think it was in the 20s in terms of the number of service lines.
A lot.
They were 24 this past month.
Wow.
And so incidentally, the rammer that we own broke. So we sent it into US Rentals to be repaired. And then we rented one from them so they could keep fixing service lines as we were waiting ours to be repaired. So that was that question
was-
related to the
That was
claim
ours being
summary earlier.
repaired, not
Yes.
theirs.
Yeah.
Okay.
So here's an example of mechanical ingenuity. This is our one of our mechanics, Eric, came into the yard and noticed that the gate on the back of the administrative building here was shutting all the way, and we realized that the wheel was not turning, and so the bearing had broken away from the actual wheel itself. So he drove into the back, pulled out his welder off the truck, and welded the wheel back to the bearing right there on site. He was done in about 15 minutes, and then he ordered a couple of replacement wheels because this is guaranteed to last forever. So I love you can see a little bit of the smoke on the picture on the left from the welding work that he did. So he's got the tongs and the wheel in one hand and his phone in the other, and he's nailing it.
Crazy.
I like
some
that.
more examples.
Damon, in that last photograph, there's a CCWD hat. It doesn't look quite like
Yeah.
mine and Russ Thomas's.
Yeah, well placed, right?
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
a
very good.
that's a working man's hat right there.
That is for sure. Yeah, he
Isn't that
does
a
great
welder's
work.
hat?
Here's some more work. So this is a pneumatic valve positioner. So what you see is the piston that actually turns the valve on the left. And then you see the housing that translates that piston turn actuation to the valve turn on the right. So he's going to grease the actuator on the right And then what you have in this next image is a positioner on the left that's controlled with air. So the whole apparatus you can see completely kind of put back together in the image on the right. So you have the ABB pneumatic actuator that lives on the outside of that gearbox of the actual valve. And then below that, you have the air actuated piston that that ABB is gonna move all like a clock almost, all the little dials and gears and push air into that cylinder that sits down below and then just minutely operate that valve. And what this is on the effluent line of the filter. So as the filter filters water, it needs to make sure that valve makes sure that the filter just doesn't run itself dry or overflow because it's not discharging enough water. So it's going to look at a tank level.
Wow.
And it's going to control the air through that ABB actuator. And what happened is this failed. And this is kind of this could be one of the valves of the heart of the plant, right? If this fails, we really have a problem treating water. And if you remember, we have a project right now that's going to add a second filter in West Point, and they're working on the site improvements for that, but we currently don't have one. So we can't filter water through this filter because the effluent valve's broken. We can't make any water for the community. And so Eric went up, noted that there were some new parts as part of the project that were there. He took apart some of the old parts, grabbed some of the new parts, and was able to kind of Frankenstein a valve together to get the plant back in business. So, the joke about water and wastewater treatment is, it's periods of boredom punctuated by moments of sheer terror. That would be like that moment of sheer terror, like, oh my gosh, I can't make any water. Everyone's really thirsty. What are we going to do? So this is another example of mechanical work. So electromagnetic solenoid and float repair / replacement at Forest Meadows wastewater treatment plant. You can see on the image on the left, we've got some water and conduit caused some issues for the control solenoid, which is in that panel. We call that a NEMA panel or a control box on the right. And the green and brass apparatuses that have wiring coming off of them are solenoid valves. So this is an example of troubleshooting. So why isn't this thing working? Oh, it looks like the solenoid might have failed. Well, why did the solenoid fail? Oh, it looks like the conduit might be not sealed accurately and is full of water. So we don't want to put a brand new solenoid in there just to have it blow apart again. And so, some of the work involved is drying that conduit out, replacing the solenoid, testing, making sure that the connections are accurate, and then turning everything back on and getting everything back in action. So can't say enough great work. Here's some more mechanical work. We have fuel pump replacement. So just, kind of 08 Ford Ranger. It's lived a good life. We're going to keep it alive. We're going to drop that gas tank and put in a new fuel pump and put it back on the road. And we're going to replace the thermostat housing because that thing looked like it just melted. And so our mechanics tore that one off, put a new one in. You can see it in the image on the right. Here we go with our construction crew has a material trailer they keep in Vallecito, a lot of material and equipment, it has no lights. So one of the asks of the construction crew to the electrical department was, hey, can we get some lights in that trailer? And it's a rail car actually. And so that involves mechanical. So mechanical went ahead and welded all the unistrut that you see on the ceiling and in the image on the right. And then I don't have an image, but electrical then came in and installed all the fluorescent ballasts.
Nice.
And now construction has lights. So at 2 o'clock in the morning, they're not having to drive their truck up there and turn the headlights on and dig through stuff to get to a repair piece of equipment to go out and make it a repair. They can just go turn the lights on. The neighbors.
And they were electricians too.
So this was an example of construction, working with electrical and working with mechanical.
Wouldn't LED strips be more efficient than?
I actually think they are, but I'm not 100% sure. I think if Craig Canepa is listening to this, he's throwing his hat at his computer screen because I'm sure they are LEDs, but I don't know for sure.
You can't hear him telling you.
We've had
Yeah.
that so far today, people just chiming in, right on cue.
Yeah, that is true. We'll pause for a
Damon,
second. Yes.
Damon, did you see this was at Vallecito?
Correct. Yep. The Vallecito yard. So we have a waste treatment plant at Vallecito, and we have a couple portable office portables, I guess they're called, that are some of our construction and collections crew report to. And then our construction crew keeps a lot of their equipment at Vallecito.
Okay.
Yep. And then here's our electrical department hard at work when they're called because this aerator is not working properly. The image on the left in the Wilseyville sewage pond. And rather than swim out there and try to figure out what's going on, they just decoupled the wiring and reversed the 3-phase wiring to make it spin the other direction and blew out whatever was in it.
Oh, nice.
And then put the wiring back and it worked. So just tip of the cap to our electrical department. They do great work.
It's amazing the innovation that not wanting to swim in a set pool.
Exactly.
Don't they have some kind of
Or take a boat out there.
Really good motivator.
Yeah.
there's no boat or anything that
This
they
is
do?
where you always
We
talk
can
about,
drag them in. Yeah, we can, but yeah.
this is where you always talk about taking a deep dive.
Exactly. Yeah, this one too. This is a troubleshooting and repairing of an ozone generator at the Jalen Water Treatment Plant. So this generator takes nitrogen through an air compressor, takes electricity, and creates ozone, and then flows that ozone through a stainless steel, I don't know, I think it's about 30, there's two of them. They're about 30 feet tall and they're baffled. So you flow water up one side and it flows by gravity down the other side. And there are these discs that are made out of lava rock, and you push the ozone through the lava rock and it comes out to this like little fine bubbly mist. And so the generator was having issues, and I just see a bunch of micro switches and PLCs and fuses in these images, and our electricians can open it up and go, oh yeah, this capacitor's broken, and replace it, and the ozone generator's back in action. So it's a little bit like voodoo to me, but
Yeah.
And here's an example of adding correct HDMI. So this is basically like an operator interface at the Sheep Ranch Water Treatment Facility. So now our operators actually can remote into Sheep Ranch, and they can check levels and check pump operations, and they can turn equipment on and off remotely, which saves us a ton of time and it saves a lot in terms of being able to understand whether or not that water system's in good shape or is experiencing issues. And then we have, so this is another example of a copper wastewater aerator fuse electrical panel failure. This could be the exact same image from the ops report last month because the same thing happened. And it's just based on age and time out in the weather and in a panel, and just the kind of the work that's involved. Don't really highlight enough of the engineering work that goes on. And so just wanted to bring to light some of the great work that Kevin Williams has been doing with our inspectors, Jared and Jason, and our contractors on the Redwood tank replacement project. So the image on the left is the tank up above Miko in the SPI property off Highway 4. This is what we call tank 8.
8, yeah.
Yep.
The
And so
famous
that's the
tank
nice-
8.
Excuse me. Yeah, that's exactly right. And it has the nice dark green color with the beautiful shiny top. That was a potential item of concern in the neighborhoods, but you can see the image on the right is our Big Trees 4 and 5 tank site. So that tank, you can see that most folks are never going to be able to have the vantage point that you do at 8, which is out in the forest, to be able to see that roof. And so Heather Tank is now up also. And I thought I had a picture of that. I guess I don't. So Heather Tank was replacing a redwood tank in Forest Meadows with another bolted glass line steel tank, and that is up and operating also. And the crews are now working on the floor of the Flume Court tank. And then we'll move to the Larkspur tank, which is also in Forest Meadows, which is not part of the Redwood project, but I'm digressing a little bit. Just wanted to kind of show field ops staff involving themselves in Halloween trivia, which was probably part of what Michael's going to talk about, but I think it's really great to just show, you can see some treatment operators there and some construction workers, and everyone was trying to figure out who grows the most pumpkins and what else is there. When Monster Mash was first written, there was a lot of conversation in that all employee meeting. And then
And
just
in
to-
case Stacy's listening, those of us that were at table 3 are still waiting for our prize for winning the trivia. So,
Table 3 was a
Dave?
mix of the general managers and construction
Customer
workers,
service.
customer
yeah,
service,
treatment plant
distribution.
operator. We had a
Yeah,
good team.
that's probably why you won. You were heavily, you were kind of rounded, yeah. So to follow Jessica up, I like the picture on the right because you can get an idea of where the spillway is in relation to the White Pines Dam, which I think's important to understand. And we kind of looked for where Director Ratterman might have used to slide down that spillway back in the day, didn't see any signs. And then finally, just wanted to follow up with a photo credit to Kelly Soleil Doyle. This was Highway 4 when it was closed. I want to say this was the 2nd or 3rd, maybe the 4th of November, when we had, unfortunately, a transfer truck blocking the road. This is what happened. So you don't see that every day. The trailer is laying on its side and the debris is kind of laying out in the road, and it looks like it might have clipped an oak tree also when it hit that
What
corner.
was in the truck?
It looks to me
Biosolids?
like, yeah, no biosolids. That's exactly what it is, right? Yeah.
Damon, when that truck blocked the highway, all the eastbound and westbound traffic came on Hunt Road, right? by
Oh
my
my
place.
gosh.
Oh,
It
Had a
sounded,
parade.
it sounded like I was living next to the freeway. It was really
I
very
bet.
unusual. I never hear anything out there, and all of a sudden they have 40 cars in a row coming down the hillside.
That's crazy.
Very odd.
I bet. And that's my report.
Thank you. It's very nice.
Thanks, y'all. Appreciate it.
We like all
Thank
those
you.
pictures in the narrative. It's nice. Thank you. All right, we've got to get moving on here, huh?
I'll be quick,
Okay.
or I'll try to be quick.
Do I see this 5 minutes left in your meeting? Is that something you're looking at or is it just on mine? Okay.
That's the ghost of Jeff Davidson.
All right, general manager's report.
Just to follow up on the all hands
See what I'm
meeting.
talking about?
Much appreciation to Jessica and Stacy and all the other folks. I know there was a lot of other hands that were involved
very
in
good.
planning that. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was a great event. It's great to get the whole crew together. And then it led into a whole week of safety, different training events that HR and operations had planned. All of it, a lot of it took place out
I
here.
was wondering, was that inside
Courtyard.
there?
Yeah.
Awesome.
So we had a whole week of different training opportunities for staff and staff from other agencies as well were here. So a lot of work and coordination went into that, and it was very successful, I think. So thanks to staff for pulling all that together. I did a training myself last week. I've talked to the board about this in the past, but it was the first session of the JPIA training program that I'm enrolled in. That's fantastic. It's exceeding expectations. So I'm really optimistic about that and looking forward to bringing some of it back to the district. Damon and Jessica and I gave a presentation to EPOC at the last EPOC meeting. It was kind of a district overview project update. And we made sure to, because we always give a CCWD update at those meetings, but it's usually just focused on what we're doing in Ebbets Pass. But because they had invited us as the primary speaker for that event, we expanded it to make sure that the Ebbets Pass folks know about some of the other stuff that's going on around the district. So we gave sort of a district-wide presentation at the EPOC meeting. We've just received notice that it's been raining, and the water board let us know that it has been raining. So we're grateful for that notification. But the good news is it came in the form of lifting the water curtailments. So the curtailment from diverting has been lifted. So we are actually grateful for that, and we hope more of that weather is coming. Let's see. Next week, we're looking forward to our virtual DC trip. So we can, I don't know, Scott, are you going to simulate a red eye? I don't know, we could probably leave that part of it out, but Mia, as always, has done a great job at coordinating a series of meetings over a few days with our state elected representatives in DC, so Senator Padilla's office, Senator Feinstein's office, Congressman McClintock, Office of Management and Budget, Army Corps, Bureau of Staff, the whole gamut. And so we're looking forward to all of those meetings. But we've also got the Aqua Conference coming up. I know some of the board members are already registered. There's still a chance to register, I think. But because
When
we're
is
doing
it?
our DC visits this next week, and I've already been out of the office for that JPIA training, I'm gonna probably not go to the Aqua Conference for the first time in a while. But I know we have other staff that are going and a couple of board members that are going. So we will be well represented there. I will be at the Aqua board meeting next week. And there are some bylaws changes that we'll be voting on at the conference. So I'll make sure our representatives are prepared to vote on that. And then let's see. I think the only other thing I wanted to mention today is we have a new water resources specialist. Took us a while to get to the selection process for the new water resources position. And I think everyone involved is very pleasantly surprised that it's an internal hire. And I don't think any of us were anticipating that. And we had a strong pool of candidates, and some of which were very highly educated and came from different backgrounds. But our own Kelly Gerkensmeyer has been at the district for over 20 years and is our senior distribution operator on Evans Pass. Kind of blew away the competition with his presentations and his interviews and how, the enthusiasm that he brought to it. So we were, like I said, we didn't expect an internal hire for that position, and Kelly's kind of became the obvious choice after multiple rounds of interviews. So we're very much looking forward to continuing to take advantage of his expertise as a water distribution operator, and then bring him into the water resources department. And I think it's going to be a great new chapter. That's the update on that front, and that's all I have.
Very good.
Will we be advertising soon for his replacement in the field?
It was out within minutes. So we've already done that, and undoubtedly we'll have some internal candidates for that position. And this is the domino effect of when we do make an internal hire. Eventually we'll get to a point where there's no internal candidate that wants to fill a vacancy, but I expect there may be a few lateral movements before we do that. So yeah, that process is already underway.
Was this position a SEIU one? Or
It is,
Extra?
yes.
That doesn't seem like a domino effect. That's like a upward mobility ladder. So
That's a better way to put it.
Yeah.
I was hesitating on that. Yes, thank you. The ladder effect.
All right. Thank you, Michael. That was very nice. All right, Bertha, do you have anything to report?
Oh, yes, I just do want to report that it has been snowing off and on while we've been conducting our meeting. And one of the things that I'd like to ask if we could have maybe in a couple of months is, remember this handout that we got on customer service update? I thought that this gave us a lot good information, and I think that Cindy, this would answer some of your questions. Maybe we could ask for that.
Show it to me.
So that's a regular agenda
Yeah.
item. It'll be the second meeting of every month.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Is this what she did?
No,
Although
the customer
we'll have to
service
talk about
one.
how we're going to do that over the next couple of months since we're canceling some meetings. But yes, that will be a regular report.
Okay.
Good idea, Bertha.
And that's all I have today.
Thank you, Bertha. Scott, do you have anything?
Sure. Just that I'll be attending the Aqua meeting at the end of the month, and congratulations to Kelly. It's an awesome awesome to hear. That's all I got.
Okay, Russ?
Okay, Bertha,
Yes.
Cindy,
Yes.
I would like to congratulate both of you for running a very admirable campaign